The wine glass shattered first. Then came the screams, then the sickening sound of a pregnant woman's body hitting marble floor. I'm Charlotte Hayes. And 3 weeks ago, my husband's mistress pushed me at a wine tasting while I was 6 months pregnant with our daughter. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. The sommelier hosting that exclusive event? My billionaire uncle. The man whose estate has security cameras recording every angle. The man who controls half the commercial real estate contracts in Northern California. The man whose phone call can end careers with a single word. My husband thought he was so clever. Affair with his 28-year-old assistant. Secret apartment in the building I'd wanted. Anniversary trip to Paris while I cried alone at home. $47,000 of our money spent on her in 6 months. My grandmother's Holocaust bracelet, resized for her wrist. He thought I didn't know. Thought I was too pregnant, too dependent, too scared to leave. He was wrong. This is the story of how I lost everything and gained myself. How my husband's mistress became the least of my problems. How I discovered my marriage was never even legal. And how 7 abandoned children, 6 betrayed women, and 1 billionaire uncle brought down a man who thought he could run forever. Sometimes the universe doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you need. And what I needed was the truth. This is my truth. The wine glass hit the marble floor first, crystal exploding into 1,000 glittering pieces. Then came the gasps, 50 voices rising in unison. Then the sound Charlie would never forget, the dull, sickening thud of her own body hitting stone. Her hand had moved instinctively to her belly. 6 months pregnant. The baby. Protect the baby. Everything else disappeared. The vaulted ceiling of the Castellano estate tasting room blurred above her. Hand-painted frescoes of vineyards swam in her vision. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Just her hand on her stomach and the feeling of falling backward through space. Charlie! A man's voice. Deep. Urgent. Not Derek. Never Derek anymore. She blinked. The ceiling came back into focus slowly. Wooden beams, wrought iron chandeliers. Vanessa Cole's face hovering above her, mouth open in shock. Or maybe satisfaction. Hard to tell. Charlie's back screamed against the cold marble. She tried to sit up. A gentle hand pressed her shoulder. Don't move. Uncle Victor knelt beside her. His weathered face had gone pale, silver hair disheveled. She'd never seen him anything less than perfectly composed. James already called 911. Just stay still. The room erupted around them, heels clicking on marble, chairs scraping, someone screaming for a doctor. Charlie turned her head. 50 people, 50 of Napa Valley's elite, all staring, all witnesses. Vanessa stood 3 feet away, frozen. Derek's assistant. The woman Charlie had served coffee to dozens of times over the past year. Pretty, young, 28 maybe, wearing a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than Charlie's car payment. And there, right there on her wrist, the Cartier bracelet, the one that had disappeared from Charlie's jewelry box 2 months ago. She pushed her. A woman's voice, clear, certain. Elena Rodriguez, the event coordinator. I saw the whole thing. That woman pushed Mrs. Hayes. Charlie's hands trembled against her belly. Waiting, waiting. Then it came. A kick, strong, angry. The baby was okay. The baby was alive. Ma'am, can you tell me your name? A paramedic appeared. Young, professional, kind eyes. I'm Ryan. I need you to stay very still for me. Charlotte Hayes. Her voice sounded strange, like it belonged to someone else. I'm 6 months pregnant. She pushed me. The paramedic's eyes flicked to Vanessa. Back to Charlie. Okay, we're going to get you on a backboard, just as a precaution. Can you move your fingers and toes for me? Charlie moved them. Everything worked. Everything hurt. Good, that's very good. Ryan placed a cervical collar around her neck. We're going to take excellent care of you and your baby. But Charlie wasn't looking at the paramedic. She was looking past him. At Derek. Her husband stood near the doorway, phone in his hand, face the color of old parchment. Not moving toward her, just standing there, staring. Derek. The word came out hollow. He finally moved. 3 steps. 4. Like walking through wet concrete. Charlie, He stopped. His eyes darted to Vanessa, back to Charlie, to Vanessa again. That's when she knew. Not suspected, not worried, knew. With absolute certainty, the way you know the sun will rise, the way you know your own name. She knew. The baby kicked again, harder this time, like she was angry too. "Sir, are you the husband?" Ryan asked. "Yes, I'm Derek Hayes." Derek's voice was steady, too steady. The voice he used for client presentations. "Is she going to be okay?" "We're taking her to Napa Valley Medical Center. You can follow in your car." They lifted Charlie onto the backboard. The straps felt tight across her chest, across her belly. She wanted to tell them to be careful, that there was a baby, that the baby was the only thing that mattered. But her throat had closed up. The stretcher wheels clattered across the marble. She stared up at the ceiling as they moved, past the wine displays, past the tasting bar, past the doorway where Derek stood, not following, not moving, just watching her go. Her phone was in her hand somehow. 3 missed calls from Derek, from this morning, before the wine tasting, before everything. She'd let them go to voicemail. All 3, something she never did. The phone felt heavy in her palm now. Lock, unlock, lock, unlock, lock. The last normal thing, the last moment when her world made sense. The ambulance doors opened. Bright sunlight streamed in. Too bright, too normal. How could the sun still be shining when everything had just shattered? "Ma'am, I need to start an IV." Another paramedic, older, gray at the temples. "Just a small stick." Charlie barely felt it. She was thinking about Vanessa's face. Right before the push, they'd been in the hallway near the restrooms, away from the crowd. Charlie had asked quietly, politely, "Please, could she have her grandmother's bracelet back? Just please." Vanessa had laughed, not loud, not mean, just amused. "It looks better on me anyway. Derek said so. He said I deserve nice things because I haven't let myself go." Let myself go. Charlie looked down at her belly, at the life growing inside. Let myself go. "Your blood pressure's elevated but stable." The gray-haired paramedic made notes on a tablet. "How far along did you say?" 24 weeks, 6 months. "Any cramping? Bleeding?" "No, just the baby kicking. She's been kicking." "That's good. That's a very good sign." He smiled. "Strong baby you've got there." Strong, yes, her daughter would have to be strong. Charlie could feel it already, could feel the life ahead of them, the two of them, because Derek's face when he looked at Vanessa told her everything she needed to know. The ambulance siren wailed as they pulled onto the highway. Charlie closed her eyes, tried to remember when it had started. When had Derek stopped looking at her the way he'd looked at Vanessa? When had she become invisible? When had she stopped being his wife and become just the pregnant woman in his house? 3 months ago, maybe 4. She'd found a receipt in his jacket pocket. The Bristol Hotel, downtown Napa. They'd never stayed there together. When she asked, he'd said it was for a client meeting. Corporate rate, nothing romantic. His voice had been so certain, so believable. She'd wanted to believe him. God, she'd wanted to, because the alternative meant her whole life was a lie. Meant the baby growing inside her was being born into a broken home. Meant she'd been a fool. Her phone buzzed. Derek. She declined the call, watched the screen go dark, felt something shift inside her chest. Not the baby, something else. Something that had been bending for months. Years, maybe. Finally snapped straight. The ambulance turned. The siren changed pitch. They were close now. Close to the hospital. Close to answers she didn't want. Close to a future she couldn't imagine. Almost there, Mrs. Hayes. Ryan's voice was gentle. You're doing great. But she wasn't doing great. She was lying on a backboard in an ambulance because her husband's mistress had pushed her. Because she'd been stupid enough to confront the other woman. Because she'd thought asking nicely would make a difference. The bracelet. Her grandmother's Cartier bracelet. The one Nana had worn through the Holocaust. Hidden in her clothes. Sewn into the lining of her coat. The only thing she'd managed to keep when they took everything else. The bracelet she'd given to Charlie's mother. That Charlie's mother had given to Charlie on her wedding day. Something old, Mom had said, fastening it around Charlie's wrist. From a woman who survived the unsurvivable. So you'll always remember, we're stronger than we think. Stronger than we think. Charlie touched her belly, felt another kick. Okay, baby girl, okay. We'll figure this out. The ambulance doors opened. Bright lights, hospital smell, antiseptic and floor polish. Voices calling out medical terms she didn't understand. The stretcher rattled over pavement, through automatic doors, down a hallway that smelled like bleach and fear. Trauma 2, a nurse's voice, calm, professional. 24 weeks pregnant, fall from standing height, patient alert and oriented. Fall, they called it a fall, like she'd tripped, like it had been an accident. Charlie opened her mouth to correct them, closed it. What was the point? They'd see the security footage. Elena Rodriguez was already calling Uncle Victor. The truth would come out. The truth always came out. Eventually. The trauma room was cold, bright, full of people in scrubs. They transferred her from the backboard to a bed, cut away her dress, the beautiful maternity dress she'd bought special for today. Derek had said she looked nice that morning, getting ready. He'd said she looked nice. What had he said to Vanessa? When they were alone, when he gave her the bracelet, did he say she looked beautiful? Did he say she deserved nice things? Did he tell her all the things he used to tell Charlie? Mrs. Hayes, I'm Dr. Martinez. A woman, 40-something, dark hair pulled back. I'm going to examine you and then we'll get an ultrasound, okay? Charlie nodded, couldn't speak. If she spoke, she'd cry, and she was done crying. Done crying over a man who called his mistress while his wife was in an ambulance, because she'd seen it. Seen him pull out his phone, seen him step away from the crowd. 3 calls this morning that she'd ignored. 3 calls to Vanessa while Charlie was being loaded into an ambulance. Any pain? Dr. Martinez pressed gently on Charlie's abdomen. No, just sore from landing on my back. Any contractions? No. Bleeding? No. That's good, very good. Dr. Martinez made notes on her tablet. We'll do an ultrasound to check on the baby, but from what I can see, you were very lucky. The fall could have been much worse. Lucky, right, lucky that her husband's pregnant mistress had only pushed her down instead of down a flight of stairs. Lucky that 50 people had witnessed it. Lucky that her billionaire uncle owned the estate where her marriage had publicly imploded. So lucky. We'll get you moved to ultrasound in just a few minutes. Is there anyone you'd like us to call? My uncle, Victor Castellano. He's probably already on his way. Charlie's voice was steadier now. Colder. And my lawyer, Nina Sullivan. De Martinez's eyebrows rose slightly. Your lawyer? Yes, I'm going to need her. The ultrasound room was dim, cool. The technician squeezed gel onto Charlie's belly. It was cold. Charlie barely noticed. She was staring at the ceiling, counting tiles. Anything to not think about Derek in the waiting room. About Vanessa in police custody. About the baby inside her who deserves so much better than this mess. Let's take a look. The technician moved the wand slowly across Charlie's stomach. I'm Brenda. I'm going to check your baby's heartbeat, positioning, and make sure everything looks good. The heartbeat filled the room. Fast, strong, perfect, like tiny galloping horses. Charlie's breath caught. That's a beautiful heartbeat. Brenda smiled at the screen. 150 beats per minute, right where we want to see it. Charlie's hand found her belly. The baby kicked against her palm. Angry little kicks. Like she was saying, I'm here, Mom. I'm okay, we're okay. Can you tell? Charlie's voice cracked. Can you tell if it's a girl? Brenda glanced at the chart. You didn't want to know before? We were keeping it a surprise, but I think the surprises are over now. Brenda's face softened. She'd done this before. Seen women in hospital beds with bruises forming and marriages ending. It's a girl, a healthy baby girl. Do you want me to print extra copies of the images? Yes, for my lawyer. Brenda didn't ask why, just nodded, moved the wand, took measurements, made notes. The baby appeared on screen, profile shot, little nose, little chin, fist near her face like she was thinking hard about something. She's perfect, Charlie whispered. She really is. Heart looks great. Growth is right on track. Placenta is in good position. Amniotic fluid levels are perfect. Your baby is doing just fine, Mrs. Hayes. She wasn't hurt by the fall. The fall. Everyone kept calling it a fall, like gravity had failed instead of her husband. Thank you. Charlie couldn't take her eyes off the screen. Her daughter, their daughter, Derek's daughter too, whether he deserved her or not. Can you print a lot of copies? I think I'm going to need them. Of course, Brenda printed 8 images, handed them to Charlie in a manila envelope. Take care of yourself and your baby girl. Charlie held the envelope against her chest as they wheeled her to a regular room. Baby girl. She needed a name now. Something strong, something hopeful, something that meant I survived my parents' disaster and came out okay anyway. Grace, after her grandmother who'd survived the Holocaust. After her mother who'd survived cancer. Grace Charlotte Hayes. A name that meant survival ran in her blood. The room was private, windows overlooking the parking lot. Charlie could see Uncle Victor's Range Rover pulling in. Beside it, a silver BMW. Nina. Thank God for Nina. The door opened. Not Derek. Nina Sullivan burst in like a tornado in heels. Expensive suit, leather briefcase, face set in the expression Charlie had seen her use in court. Ready for war. Don't say anything yet. Nina set her briefcase on the table, pulled out her phone, hit record. Charlotte Marie Hayes, it's Saturday, April 26, 4:47 p.m. I'm your attorney, Nina Sullivan. I'm recording this conversation for legal documentation. Do you consent? I consent. Good. Tell me exactly what happened. Every detail. Start from this morning. Charlie told her everything. The phone call she'd ignored. The wine-tasting Derek had insisted they attend. Good for business, he'd said. Important clients, the Castellano estate, Uncle Victor's spring collection. 50 people, Vanessa in the cream dress, the Cartier bracelet. I asked her for it back, quietly, in the hallway. I said, please. I explained it was my grandmother's. She laughed, said it looked better on her. Said Derek gave it to her because I'd let myself go. Charlie's voice was flat, factual. Then she told me she was pregnant, 10 weeks. She wanted me to know before she announced it. Tonight, at Uncle Victor's event, in front of everyone. Nina's jaw tightened. What did you say? I asked her to please not do that, to please think about my family, my uncle's event. She said I should have thought about that before I trapped Derek with a pregnancy. She said he was leaving me anyway, that they'd already picked out an apartment together. Then what happened? Then I said I was sorry, that I didn't want to cause problems. I turned to walk away. That's when she pushed me, both hands on my shoulders, hard. I fell backward, hit the marble floor. Charlie touched her back, still sore. Elena Rodriguez saw everything. She was right there. She yelled that Vanessa pushed me. Did Derek see it happen? No, he was inside with clients. But he came out when people started screaming. What did he do? Charlie was quiet for a long moment. He looked at Vanessa first, then at me. Then he pulled out his phone. I saw him step away. I saw him make calls, 3 calls, while they were loading me into the ambulance. I think he was calling her, making sure she was okay. Nina stopped recording, set her phone down carefully, like it might explode. Charlie, honey, I need to ask you something. And I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay. How long have you known about the affair? Charlie stared at her hands, at her wedding ring, white gold, small diamond. They'd been so young when they got married, 25 and 28, stupid and in love. Or maybe just stupid. 3 months, maybe 4. I found a hotel receipt, the Bristol. We'd never stayed there together. He said it was for a client meeting. But you didn't believe him. I wanted to believe him. God, Nina, I wanted to. Charlie's voice broke. Because if I didn't believe him, then I had to face the truth that my husband was cheating on me, that I was 6 months pregnant with a baby whose father didn't want us anymore. What else did you find? Text messages, half deleted, like he'd forgotten to delete them all. Just random fragments. Can't wait to see you. Last night was amazing. My wife is asleep. Things like that. Flowers charged to our joint account that I never received. Late nights at the office. Her perfume on his shirts. That cheap drugstore stuff she wears. I could smell it every time. I kept washing his shirts twice, like I could wash away what I knew was happening. Nina opened her briefcase, pulled out a legal pad, started making notes. The bracelet, when did it disappear? 2 months ago, I asked Derek about it. He said he'd put it in the safe for security because it was so valuable. I believed him. Charlie laughed, bitter. I always believed him. Charlie, I'm going to ask you something else, and I need you to really think about your answer. Okay, do you want to save your marriage, or do you want a divorce? The question sat between them. Heavy, obvious. The answer should be obvious too. Should be. But Charlie was 32 years old, 6 months pregnant, about to be a single mother, dependent on Derek's income because she'd left her curator job to prepare for the baby, dependent on Derek's insurance, dependent on Derek for everything. Except she wasn't, not really, because Uncle Victor was a billionaire, because Nina was her best friend, because she had people, resources, options. I want a divorce. The words felt powerful, final, real. I want full custody. I want him to pay for everything he stole. Every dollar he spent on her comes back to our daughter's trust fund. I want the house, the car, my grandmother's jewelry, and I want him to sign a document saying he'll never contest any of this, ever. Nina was quiet for a moment. That's going to be a fight. I have 50 witnesses, security footage, hospital records, police reports, and Uncle Victor's resources. Charlie's voice was steady, cold. Derek's career survives or dies based on what story gets told. His choice. A knock at the door. Uncle Victor entered. His silver hair was still disheveled, suit jacket wrinkled. Behind him, James Thornton, head of security, 6'4", built like a wall, former FBI agent, the man you wanted on your side when things got ugly. Charlotte, Victor sat on the edge of her bed, took her hand. His grip was strong, steady. Your mother is on her way from San Francisco. I told her you needed her, but I didn't explain why. She doesn't need the stress while she's still recovering. Charlie's mother, Grace, 55 years old, 3 months out from finishing chemotherapy for breast cancer. She shouldn't be driving, shouldn't be worrying. But mothers didn't rest when their daughters' worlds collapsed. Thank you. Charlie squeezed his hand. James has something to show you. Victor nodded at his security chief. James pulled out a tablet, queued up a video. This is from the estate's security cameras. 12 different angles, all synchronized, all time-stamped. Ms. Rodriguez already gave her statement to the Napa County Sheriff. 53 witnesses have been identified and contacted. Here's the relevant footage. He pressed play. Charlie watched herself on screen. Hallway near the restrooms. Vanessa's back to the camera. Charlie's face visible. Talking. Gesturing to the bracelet on Vanessa's wrist. Vanessa laughing. Shaking her head. Charlie turning away. Vanessa's hands coming up. Both palms flat against Charlie's shoulders. Pushing. Hard. Charlie's body falling backward. The way her hands went to her stomach. Protecting. Always protecting. The angle switched. Wide shot. Charlie on the ground. Vanessa standing over her. Mouth open. Elena Rodriguez rushing over. Pointing at Vanessa. Yelling. Other people crowding in. Derek running from the tasting room. Stopping. Phone coming out. Stepping away from the crowd. Making calls. 3 calls, James said quietly. 18 seconds, 34 seconds, and 42 seconds. All to the same number. Vanessa Cole's cell phone during your wife's medical emergency. Nina made notes. Victor's face had turned to stone. Charlie just watched the screen, watched her husband choose. Over and over and over. Choose the woman who just assaulted his pregnant wife. Choose her, not Charlie. Never Charlie anymore. Where is he now? Charlie asked. Downstairs in the waiting room, with his mother and his business partner, Marcus Webb. I've banned him from this floor. Hospital security knows. He's not getting near you unless you explicitly request it. I won't request it. Good. Victor stood. Because I'm about to go downstairs and have a conversation with him. And it's not going to be pleasant. Uncle Victor, He called his mistress while you were in an ambulance. He gave away your grandmother's bracelet. He's been stealing from your joint account for months. I've already had James pull your banking records. $47,000, Charlotte. He spent $47,000 on her in 6 months while you left your tray to prepare for his baby. The number hit like a fist. $47,000. Their down payment for the house. Their emergency fund. Her emergency fund. Because Derek had always said they were a team. What's mine is yours. What's yours is mine. Except it turned out what was hers was his to give away to the woman he actually wanted. I need to see the bank statements. Charlie's voice was cold, distant, like it belonged to someone else. I need copies of every main, every charge, every transaction, every lie. Already done. As James handed her another tablet. I took the liberty of pulling your records. Joint checking, joint savings, both credit cards. His personal credit card that you're not on. Everything's documented. Charlie scrolled through the charges. The Bristol Hotel, 27 stays, $150 per night, $4,050. Just for hotel rooms. Tiffany and Company, Hermes, Cartier, restaurant charges, wine, flowers, and apartment rental in Pacific Heights. $1,500 per month for 6 months, $9,000. Paris, the Hotel Plaza Athénée, $3,200. Posted March 18th, their anniversary weekend. The weekend Derek said he had to be in Los Angeles for business. Unavoidable client meeting. He'd called her from the hotel, from Paris. She'd been sitting home alone, pregnant, crying because he'd missed their dinner reservation. And he'd been in Paris, with Vanessa. I'm going to be sick. Charlie dropped the tablet, leaned over the side of the bed. Nina grabbed a trash can, but Charlie's stomach was empty. Just dry heaves. Just the feeling of her entire life being a lie. Nina wet a washcloth, wiped Charlie's face. Breathe, just breathe. You're okay. The baby's okay. The baby, right. Grace Charlotte Hayes, who was being born into this nightmare. Who would grow up knowing her father had chosen another woman? Another baby, because Vanessa was pregnant too. Or said she was. 10 weeks, if that was even true. I want to press charges. Charlie sat up, wiped her mouth. Assault, theft, whatever we can charge him with. I want him to face consequences. Assault is on Vanessa. Nina made notes. She's already been taken into custody. The DA will decide whether to press charges. But theft from a spouse is tricky. You have joint accounts. Legally, he's allowed to spend that money. Even if he's spending it on his mistress? Even then, California is a no-fault divorce state. Infidelity doesn't matter to the courts. What matters is asset division. Nina tapped her pen against the legal pad. But we can use the spending as evidence of dissipation of marital assets. Argue that he deliberately wasted community property. The judge might order him to reimburse you from his separate property. Might. Probably will. $47,000 is significant, especially when you are pregnant and dependent on marital income. But we need to be strategic. I need to know if Vanessa's really pregnant. Charlie's voice was flat. Because if she is, that changes everything. Derek will fight for custody. He'll want to be with her, with their baby. Our daughter will be the one he visits, the one he tolerates, the one he pretends to love because he's legally obligated. The room was quiet. Nina and Victor exchanged glances. James cleared his throat. I can find out, James said carefully, if you want to know. I have contacts who can verify medical records. Not legally, but do it. Charlie didn't hesitate. I need to know what I'm dealing with, because if Derek has 2 babies, I need to protect my daughter. Make sure she knows she's wanted, loved, first, even if she wasn't his choice. Victor sat back down, took Charlie's hand again. You were always my choice. You know that, right? You and your mother, my family, my blood. I don't care what Derek does, what he wants. You and that baby are Castellanos. You're going to be fine, better than fine. I'm going to make our own high, to make sure of it. Uncle Victor, no, listen to me. I own half the commercial real estate development contracts in Northern California. Derek's company depends on those relationships. On my goodwill, on my recommendation. One phone call and his career is over. His business partners will drop him. His projects will stall. His reputation will be destroyed. And that's before we talk about the assault, about the theft, about the bigamy. Charlie's head snapped up. Bigamy? Victor smiled, thin, dangerous. James found something interesting while pulling Derek's background. Something I think you're going to want to hear. James pulled up another file on the tablet. 4 years ago, Derek Hayes married a woman named Melissa Brennan in Las Vegas, Clark County, Nevada. Certificate filed April 2nd. He told her he was divorced, that his ex-wife was crazy, that he'd gotten out just in time. They got married, she got pregnant. He left her at 6 months, said he had business in California. He'd send money. He never came back. The room tilted. What? Melissa Brennan has a daughter, Emma Brennan, 3 years old. Paternity established. Child support order filed. Derek owes $97,000 in back support. There's an active warrant for his arrest in Nevada. Failure to pay child support. He's been evading it by staying in California. Charlie couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Derek had another wife, another child, another woman he'd lied to, another baby he'd abandoned. He's done this before. The words came out in a whisper. This is what he does. He finds women, marries them, gets them pregnant, leaves. It would appear so. James closed the file. I've contacted Ms. Brennan. She's willing to talk to you if you'd like. She saw the news about the assault. She wants you to know the truth. She said, James paused. She said she saw you on TV pregnant and hurt, and she saw herself 4 years ago. She thought you deserved to know who you married. Who you married? A bigamist, a liar, a thief, a man who abandoned pregnant women as casually as other people changed clothes. Is our marriage even legal? Charlie asked. No, Nina's voice was quiet. If he was still married to Melissa when he married you, then your marriage is void. Legally, you were never married, which actually works in your favor, because now you can sue for palimony, common law partnership, and you have a much stronger case for asset division. Every penny he earned while with you is subject to division. Plus, bigamy is a felony in California. He's looking at prison time. Prison. Derek in prison. The father of her baby. The man she'd loved, or thought she'd loved. Maybe she'd never known him at all. What about Vanessa? Charlie asked. Does she know? About Melissa? About me? About any of it? I doubt it. James pulled up another file. Ms. Cole moved to California 8 months ago. From Texas. No criminal record. No red flags. Recent college graduate. Business degree. She answered an ad for an executive assistant position. Derek hired her 6 months ago. Same week you confirmed your pregnancy. 6 months. He'd hired his future mistress the same week they'd seen their baby's heartbeat for the first time. The same week Charlie had quit her job. The same week she'd started depending on him for everything. He planned this. Charlie's voice was flat. Dead. He knew I was pregnant, knew I'd quit my job, knew I'd be dependent on him. So he hired someone new, someone young, someone he could control, someone who didn't know about Melissa, about his pattern, someone who'd believe his lies. That's my assessment. James nodded. He's a predator. This is what he does. This is who he is. Charlie looked down at her belly, at the baby growing inside. Grace Charlotte Hayes, who would never know her father, not really, because the man she'd know wasn't real, was just a mask Derek wore when it suited him. I want everything. Charlie looked at Nina, at Uncle Victor, at James. Every asset, every account, every property. I want him left with nothing. And I want Melissa to get what she's owed. And I want Vanessa to know the truth. Because she's going to have a baby too, if she's really pregnant. And that baby deserves better than Derek Hayes. We can do that. Nina smiled, slow, satisfied. With Victor's resources and James's investigation, we can absolutely do that. But Charlie, you need to understand, this is going to get ugly. Derek's going to fight. He's going to lie. He's going to make you the villain. Are you ready for that? Charlie thought about the ultrasound photos, about Grace Charlotte Hayes, about the future they'd have, just the two of them. Building a life Derek couldn't touch, couldn't ruin, couldn't even reach. I'm ready. Derek sat in the waiting room with his head in his hands. Marcus Webb, his business partner, sat 3 chairs away, not talking, not looking at him, just sitting there like a stranger. Patricia Hayes, Derek's mother, paced near the vending machines, back and forth, her heels clicking against the linoleum in a rhythm that made Derek want to scream. He tried calling Charlie 6 times, straight to voicemail. He'd tried calling Victor. Same thing. He'd even tried calling the nurses' station. They told him told Hayes was resting and not accepting visitors. Mrs. Hayes was resting, like she was some random patient, not his wife, not the mother of his baby, just Mrs. Hayes. His phone buzzed. Vanessa, for the 4th time. He declined the call. Not here, not with his mother pacing, not with Marcus sitting there in judgment, not with 50 witnesses who'd seen everything. God, what a disaster. What a complete and total disaster. It was supposed to be simple. Go to Victor's wine tasting, schmooze some clients, show off his pregnant wife, prove to everyone that Derek Hayes had it all. The career, the house, the family, the beautiful young assistant, everything. Except Vanessa had lost her mind. Pushed Charlie, in front of everyone, in front of Victor Castellano, who controlled half the development contracts in Northern California, in front of the mayor, in front of 2 Superior Court judges, in front of everyone who mattered. Derek wanted to put his fist through a wall, wanted to scream, wanted to turn back, time 6 hours and tell Vanessa no. Stay home. This is too risky. We'll tell Charlie after the baby's born, after things settle, after he figured out how to get out of this marriage without losing everything. But Vanessa had insisted. She wanted to go public, wanted Charlie to know, wanted everyone to know. She was pregnant too, she said, 10 weeks. She had rights. She deserved to be acknowledged, to be seen, to be chosen. Derek had tried to explain, had tried to make her understand. It wasn't that simple. Charlie's uncle was a billionaire. Charlie's family had connections, money, power. You didn't just publicly humiliate a Castellano and walk away unscathed. But Vanessa was 28 and stupid. She thought love conquered all. Thought if Derek really loved her, he'd leave Charlie. Stand up in front of everyone and choose. Like life was some romantic movie where the hero picked the other woman and everyone clapped. Except life wasn't a movie. Life was sitting in a hospital waiting room while your pregnant wife refused to see you and your mistress sat in police custody and your entire career circled the drain. The elevator doors opened. Victor Castellano stepped out. Not alone. James Thornton followed. 2 steps behind. 6'4", a former FBI agent. The man looked like he crushed cars for fun. Derek stood. Victor, I need to explain. Sit down. Victor's voice was quiet, deadly. You're going to listen. Not talk. Listen. Derek sat. Marcus shifted in his chair. Patricia stopped pacing. My niece is upstairs with her lawyer, documenting every injury, physical, emotional, financial. Elena Rodriguez has provided a written statement. We have security footage from 12 different angles. 53 witnesses have been identified and interviewed. Your assistant assaulted a pregnant woman. My pregnant niece. At my estate. During my event. It was an accident. Vanessa didn't mean to. Vanessa Cole is currently being questioned by the Napa County Sheriff. She will be charged with assault, possibly attempted murder depending on what the district attorney decides. Victor stepped closer. But you already knew about Vanessa, didn't you, Derek? Patricia made a small sound. Marcus looked away. Derek's throat closed. Victor, it's not what you think. James, Victor didn't take his eyes off Derek. Show them. James pulled out a tablet, turned it so everyone could see. Security footage. Derek in the hallway, phone out, making calls, timestamp visible. 4:32 p.m., 4:33 p.m., 4:34 p.m. 3 calls while Charlie was being loaded into an ambulance. You called Vanessa 3 times during your wife's medical emergency. Victor's voice was silk over steel. Not the hospital, not Charlie's mother, not me. You called your mistress, The woman who just assaulted your pregnant wife. You called her to check on her or to coordinate your story. Which was it, Derek? I needed to make sure she didn't say anything. The words came out before Derek could stop them. I needed to make sure she understood this was a misunderstanding, that she didn't make it worse. Didn't make it worse. Victor's laugh was cold. She pushed a pregnant woman in front of 50 witnesses. How exactly could she make it worse? Marcus stood, moved away from Derek, like he was contagious. Derek, what the hell have you done? Stay out of this, Marcus. Stay out of it. We're business partners. Our accounts are joined. Our reputation is shared. If you've been Marcus stopped, looked at Victor. What did he do? James. Victor nodded. James pulled up another file. Bank statements, joint business account, highlighted charges. Derek's been funneling money to Vanessa Cole for 6 months. Apartment rental, gifts, travel, charged to the business account, $42,000. Without his partner's knowledge or consent. Marcus's face went white. You stole from me. It's not stealing, it's our account. You're allowed to make business expenses, not pay for your mistress's apartment. Marcus's voice rose. Do you understand what you've done? The IRS is going to audit us. Our clients are going to drop us. Our reputation is destroyed because you couldn't keep it in your pants. Patricia sat down heavily. Derek, tell me this isn't true. Tell me you didn't cheat on your pregnant wife. Derek couldn't look at her. Couldn't look at any of them. Mom, it's complicated. Complicated. Patricia's voice was flat. You're having an affair. You stole money. Your mistress assaulted your wife. What's complicated about that? Charlie's been distant, cold, ever since she got pregnant. She stopped caring about me, about us. She only cared about the baby. I was lonely. Vanessa understood me. She listened. She made me feel, stop. Victor's voice cut through the excuse like a knife. Don't. I've heard enough. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign whatever Charlie's lawyer puts in front of you. Full custody, child support, asset division, all of it. You're going to sign and you're going to walk away, or I'm going to make one phone call and your career is over. You can't do that. I own half the commercial real estate development contracts in Northern California. Your current projects are all dependent on contracts I control. Your business partners depend on my goodwill. Your reputation depends on my silence. I can absolutely do that. And I will, unless you sign. That's blackmail. No, that's consequences. You made choices. Now you face the results. Sign the papers or lose everything. Your choice, Moamo. Derek looked at Marcus, at his mother. Both looked away. No help there. He was alone, completely alone. I need to talk to Charlie. Need to explain. No, Victor's voice was final. Victor's voice was, you're banned from her floor. Hospital security has your photo. If you try to see her, you'll be arrested for trespassing. If you call her again, she'll file for a restraining order. If you contact Vanessa, you'll be charged as an accessory to assault. You have one option. Sign the papers. Walk away. Start over somewhere else. Somewhere I don't have influence. This is insane. She's my wife. That's my baby. Actually, James pulled up another file. She's not your wife. You're still legally married to Melissa Brennan, Clark County, Nevada, April 2nd, 4 years ago, which makes your marriage to Charlotte void, which makes you a bigamist, which is a felony. The room spun. Derek couldn't breathe. Melissa, God, he'd forgotten about Melissa, about the Vegas wedding, about the baby, about the whole mess he'd left behind when he moved to California. Patricia stood, walked to Derek, slapped him across the face, hard. You're married? To someone else? You have another child? Derek touched his cheek. Mom, I can explain. No, you can't, because there's no explanation, no excuse. You're a liar, a cheat, a thief, and I'm ashamed you're my son. Patricia grabbed her purse. I'm going upstairs to apologize to Charlotte, to beg her forgiveness, to offer whatever help she needs. You're on your own. She walked to the elevator. pressed the button, didn't look back. The doors closed. She was gone. Marcus stood. I'm filing for dissolution of our partnership. Monday morning. I want you out of the office by end of business. I want your name off our contracts. I want nothing to do with you. Ever again. Marcus, wait. We're done, Derek. You've destroyed everything we built. For what? A 28-year-old assistant? Was it worth it? Marcus didn't wait for an answer. Just walked away. Through the automatic doors. Into the parking lot. Gone. Derek sat alone in the waiting room, phone in his hand. Vanessa's number on the screen. He should call her. Make sure she was okay. Make sure she understood they needed to get their story straight. Make sure she didn't say anything that would make this worse. But how could it get worse? His wife knew. His mother knew. His business partner knew. Victor Castellano knew. 50 witnesses knew. Security cameras had recorded everything. The police had Vanessa in custody. His marriage was void. His career was over. His reputation was destroyed. How could it possibly get worse? His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. But maybe it was Vanessa, from the police station, using someone else's phone. Hello? Mr. Hayes, this is Detective Sarah Morrison with the Napa County Sheriff's Department. I need to ask you some questions about the assault at the Castellano estate. Can you come down to the station? Derek closed his eyes. Right, it could get worse. It could always get worse. I need to call my lawyer first. That's your right. But Mr. Hayes, don't leave town. We're going to have a lot of questions for you. The line went dead. Derek sat alone in the empty waiting room, phone in his hand. Life in ruins, everything he'd built, everything he'd lied for, everything he'd destroyed. All for what? For Vanessa, who'd pushed his pregnant wife, who'd gotten arrested, who'd ruined everything for a 28-year-old with a cheap smile and cheaper perfume, who'd made him feel young again, who'd listened to him complain about his wife, who'd made him feel like he mattered. Except he didn't matter, not to Charlie, not to his mother, not to Marcus, not to Victor, not to anyone. He'd burned every bridge, destroyed every relationship. And for what? Derek looked at his phone, at Vanessa's number, at the 3 missed calls from this morning that Charlie had ignored. 3 calls while he was checking in with his mistress. 3 calls that had sealed his fate. He should call Vanessa. Should coordinate. Should figure out how to spin this. How to salvage something from the wreckage. But he was so tired of lying, of scheming, of trying to maintain 2 lives, 2 women, 2 families. It was exhausting. And now it was over, all of it, over. Derek stood, walked to his car, drove home, to the house he'd bought with Charlie, to the nursery they'd painted together, to the life he'd destroyed one lie at a time. The house was dark, empty. Charlie's car was gone. Her purse was gone from the hook by the door. Her keys were gone from the bowl on the table, like she'd already erased herself, already started over without him. Derek walked to the nursery, looked at the half-assembled crib, at the paint samples on the wall, at the rocking chair in the corner. This was supposed to be his daughter's room, his family, his life, but he'd chosen wrong every time, every choice, every lie. He'd chosen himself, chosen easy over right, chosen Vanessa over Charlie, chosen temporary pleasure over permanent love. And now he had nothing. Just an empty house and a phone full of missed calls and a future full of lawsuits and criminal charges and shame. Derek sat on the floor of the empty nursery, 35 years old, about to be a father, about to be divorced, about to be charged with bigamy and theft and God knew what else, about to lose everything. He pulled out his phone, looked at Vanessa's number, deleted it, looked at Charlie's number, stared at it for a long time, tried to remember when he'd stopped loving her, when she'd become an obligation instead of a choice, when their marriage had become a prison instead of a home. He couldn't remember, couldn't pinpoint the moment. Maybe there wasn't one moment. Maybe it was 1,000 small moments, 1,000 small choices, 1,000 small betrayals that added up to this, to an empty house and an empty life and an empty future. Derek's phone buzzed. A text message from his lawyer, from his, "Need to talk. Call me immediately. This is serious." Serious. Right. Like everything else wasn't already serious enough. Derek stood, looked around the nursery one last time, at the future he'd destroyed, at the family he'd lost, at the man he'd failed to be. Then he walked out, closed the door, and started making calls, because that's what you did when your life fell apart. You called lawyers, you made plans, you tried to save what little remained, even when you knew there was nothing left to save. Charlie lay awake in her hospital bed at midnight. The nurses had dimmed the lights hours ago. Uncle Victor had gone home to brief her mother. Nana had left to file preliminary paperwork. The hospital was quiet except for the sounds of machines beeping and nurses making rounds and the occasional cry from the maternity ward down the hall. Other women were having babies tonight. Normal deliveries, normal families. Fathers in the room, joy and relief and new beginnings. Charlie touched her belly. 3 more months. 3 more months until Grace Charlotte Hayes arrived, until she became a single mother, until her daughter's life began without her father. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her reach for it. Some instinct. Some need to know. Hello? Heavy breathing. Then a woman's voice. Slurred, angry, drunk or medicated, or both. You think you've won. Vanessa. Charlie's hand tightened on the phone. How did you get this number? Derek gave it to me months ago. He gives me everything. Did he tell you about Paris? Last month? Your anniversary weekend he supposedly spent in Los Angeles? We were in Paris. The Hotel Plaza Octane. He bought me an Hermes bag. That orange one I carried to the office last week. Remember? You complimented it. The memory hit like a fist. The orange Birkin bag. Beautiful. Expensive. $40,000 at least. Charlie had admired it in the break room. Vanessa had smiled. Said it was a gift from someone special. Said she was very lucky. You're lying. But Charlie knew she wasn't. Knew it was true. Could picture Derek in Paris with Vanessa while she'd been home alone. Pregnant. Waiting for him to call. Crying when he finally did because he'd missed their dinner reservation. Their 7th anniversary. Spent alone. Am I? Check his credit card statements. Oh wait, he hides those from you now. Convenient. Vanessa laughed. Bitter, sharp. You want to know the truth? Derek was going to leave you before you got pregnant. We'd already picked out an apartment together. In Pacific Heights. That building you wanted to tour when you were house hunting. Remember? Derek said it was too expensive, too impractical. But it wasn't too expensive for me. He's been paying $1,500 a month for 6 months. Our apartment, where we meet when you think he's working late. Charlie's chest felt tight. Couldn't breathe. The Pacific Heights building. The one with the rooftop garden. The one she'd fallen in love with. Derek had said they couldn't afford it. Said they needed to be practical. Said they needed to save for the baby. But he'd been paying for it anyway, just not for her. Then you trapped him. Vanessa's voice turned vicious. Got pregnant on purpose. To keep him. That's what he says. Says you knew he was pulling away so you stopped taking your birth control. Trapped him with a baby he didn't want. With a life he didn't choose. That's not true. But was it? They'd been trying for a baby for 2 years, failed every month, until suddenly it worked, 6 months ago, right when Derek had hired Vanessa, right when everything changed. Had she trapped him? Or had he let her think they were trying while he was already planning to leave? It doesn't matter. Vanessa's voice cracked. Because I'm pregnant too, and Derek wants my baby. He said so. He said our baby was wanted, chosen, loved. Not a trap, not an obligation. A choice. He chose me. He chose our baby. He's leaving you whether you like it or not. Charlie's hand moved to her belly, protected, instinctive. Grace Charlotte Hayes kicked against her palm, like she was arguing. Like she was saying, don't listen to her, Mom. She's lying. But was she? Derek had barely touched Charlie in months, barely looked at her, barely spoke to her except to discuss logistics. Groceries, bills, doctor appointments. Their marriage had become a business arrangement. Roommates splitting rent, nothing more. When had that happened? When had they stopped being in love and started being stuck? If you call this number again, I'll file a restraining order. Charlie's voice was steady, cold. You assaulted me. You're facing criminal charges. If you contact me again, I'll make sure the district attorney knows. I'll make sure you go to prison. You can't. I'm carrying Derek's child. We're family now. Whether you like it or not, you can file for divorce. You can try to keep him away, but we're connected forever. You, me, Derek, our babies. All of us tangled together because you couldn't let him go. I didn't have to let him go. He was never really there. Charlie ended the call, blocked the number, set her phone down with shaking hands. She should call someone. Uncle Victor, Nina, the police, document the harassment, document the threats, document everything because Nina said everything mattered. Every text, every call, every lie, all of it would matter in court. But Charlie just sat there, in the dark hospital room, alone on, the only light coming from the monitor beside her bed, beeping steadily, counting her heartbeats, counting Grace's heartbeats. 2 hearts, 2 lives, soon to be separate from Derek's world entirely. She pulled up her banking app, the one Derek said she didn't need to worry about. He handled the finances, took care of everything, let her focus on the baby, on herself, on resting, on being pregnant and dependent and carefully managed. The joint checking account opened, transactions scrolled. Charlie read them slowly, carefully, each one a lie, each one a betrayal. The Bristol Hotel, downtown Napa, 27 transactions, $150 each, $4,050 for hotel rooms 2 miles from their house. Why? Because Vanessa lived downtown. Because it was easier to meet there than risk being seen together in public. Tiffany and Company, 6 transactions, total $14,300. Jewelry Charlie never received. Gifts for someone else. For Vanessa. For the woman Derek actually wanted. Hermes. 2 transactions. $42,000 and $11,000. The Birkin bag. The bracelet. My grandmother's bracelet, Charlie realized. He didn't resize it. He bought her a new one. Gave her mine. Let me think he'd put it in the safe. Another lie. Another theft. Another piece of my history handed to his mistress like it meant nothing. The apartment, Pacific Heights, $1,500 per month, 6 months, $9,000. The apartment Charlie had wanted. Derek had rented it, just not for her. Paris, the Hotel Plaza Athénée, March 18th, $3,200. Their anniversary. While Charlie had been home alone, crying into her wine glass, checking her phone every 5 minutes for a text, a call, anything. Derek had been in Paris, city of love, with the woman he actually loved. Charlie scrolled further. The charges went back 6 months, started exactly 1 week after they'd confirmed the pregnancy, 1 week after they'd seen their daughter's heartbeat for the first time, 1 week after Charlie had quit her job to prepare for motherhood. Derek had hired Vanessa, started the affair, started spending their money on another woman. $47,312 in 6 months, nearly $8,000 a month. Money from the account Charlie had contributed to for 7 years, before she'd quit her job, before she'd become dependent, before she'd trusted him to take care of them. Gone, given away, to someone else. Charlie screamed, not loud, not dramatic, just a raw, guttural sound of rage and grief and betrayal. A nurse appeared in the doorway. "Mrs. Hayes, are you okay? Is it the baby?" "No, the baby's fine. I'm fine. I needed to." Charlie couldn't finish. Couldn't explain that she just watched her marriage dissolve into spreadsheet cells. Numbers on a screen that proved her husband had never loved her, had chosen someone else, had taken everything that was theirs and given it away. "Do you need something for anxiety? To help you sleep?" "No, no medications. The baby." Charlie touched her belly. "I can't. I need to think." The nurse hesitated. "I can call someone. Your mother? Your uncle? You shouldn't be alone right now." "I'm not alone. I have her." Charlie looked down at her stomach, at the baby growing inside. "I have Grace. We're okay. We're going to be okay." The nurse left, reluctantly. Charlie lay back against the pillows, stared at her phone. At the evidence of her husband's betrayal spelled out in credit card charges and bank transfers and lies. So many lies. She pulled up her photos, scrolled back. Their wedding, 7 years ago, Derek in his tux, Charlie in her grandmother's dress, the Cartier bracelet on her wrist, Mom fastening it, smiling, saying this is from a woman who survived the unsurvivable. So you'll remember, we're stronger than we think, stronger than we think. Charlie touched the screen, traced Derek's face. He'd been 28, she'd been 25. So young, so stupid, so in love. Or maybe just so committed to the idea of love that they'd mistaken hormones for forever. When had it ended? When had Derek stopped loving her? Or had he ever loved her at all? Maybe he'd loved the idea of her, the curator with the fancy family, the niece of Victor Castellano, the woman who could introduce him to important people, open doors, help his career. And when she'd gotten pregnant, when she'd become dependent instead of useful, when she'd become an obligation instead of an asset, maybe that's when he'd started looking elsewhere, started spending money elsewhere, started building a life elsewhere with Vanessa. Charlie deleted the photo, then the next one, then the next. Anniversary photos, vacation photos, holiday photos, 7 years of lies. She deleted them all, watched them disappear one by one, until her camera roll was empty except for one photo. The ultrasound, Grace Charlotte Hayes, the only good thing to come from this disaster. Her phone buzzed, a text from Nina. Are you awake? Yes, I'm coming back. We need to talk. James found something. What? Just wait. I'm 15 minutes away. Charlie set her phone down, touched her belly, felt Grace kick, strong, persistent, angry little kicks that said, I'm here, Mom. I'm okay. Whatever's coming, we'll handle it together. I'm sorry, baby girl, Charlie whispered. I'm sorry I didn't leave sooner. I'm sorry I waited until you got hurt. I'm sorry your father is a liar and a thom and a coward. You deserve better. You deserve so much better than this. Grace kicked again, harder, like she was saying it's not your fault, Mom. His choices aren't your responsibility. We're going to be okay. You'll see. The door opened. Nina rushed in, hair disheveled, suit wrinkled, eyes bright with something between rage and triumph. James found Melissa Brennan, Derek's first wife. She wanted us to talk to you. She's on the phone right now. She says, Charlie, she says there might be others, other women, other families. Derek's done this before, multiple times, and she thinks she can prove it. Charlie sat up slowly. Others? James is still investigating, but Melissa says Derek has a pattern, finds women, marries them, gets them pregnant, leaves. She thinks there are at least 3 others, maybe more. He's been doing this for years, since he was 25, moving from state to state, changing his story, abandoning women and children and debts. It's what he does, who he is. The room spun. 3 others, maybe more, multiple women, multiple children, multiple families Derek had destroyed because it was easier than being honest, easier than being faithful, easier than being a man. Put her on speaker. Charlie's voice was cold, dead. I want to hear everything. Nina hit a button. A woman's voice filled the room, tired, sad, but steady. Mrs. Hayes, my name is Melissa Brennan. 4 years ago, I married your husband. I'm calling to tell you the truth, because you deserve to know who Derek Hayes really is, and because someone should have told me. Maybe if they had, I wouldn't have made the same mistakes you're making now. Charlie closed her eyes, listened, and learned exactly who she'd married. Exactly what kind of man would push his pregnant wife's mistress into assaulting her. Exactly why Grace Charlotte Hayes would grow up without a father. Because Derek Hayes wasn't a father, wasn't a husband, wasn't even really a person. Just a predator, a liar, a ghost who moved through women's lives leaving wreckage in his wake. And Charlie had been his latest victim. But she'd be his last. She'd make sure of it. Morning came sharp and bright through the hospital windows. Charlie hadn't slept, had spent the night on the phone with Melissa Brennan, learning things. Terrible things, things that made her understand her marriage had been dead long before she'd realized. The door opened. Grace Castellano entered, thin, pale, wearing a silk scarf over her head where her hair was slowly growing back. She shouldn't be here. Should be home resting. 3 months post-chemotherapy. Her body still healing, still recovering. But mothers didn't rest when their daughters' worlds collapsed. Charlotte Marie. Grace sat on the edge of the bed, took Charlie's hands. Her grip was weaker than it used to be, but still there, still mom, still strong in the ways that mattered. Tell me everything. So Charlie did. Every detail. The affair, the money, the pregnant mistress, the assault, Vanessa's phone call, the credit card statements, the apartment, Paris. All of it, every lie, every betrayal, every moment when she should have left but stayed because she was scared, because she didn't want to be a failure, because she thought good wives worked on their marriages instead of abandoning them. And then the biggest revelation. Melissa Brennan, Derek's first wife, the bigamy, the pattern, the other women, the other children. Emma, 4 years old, 3 other children in different states, all abandoned. All with mothers who'd believed Derek's lies. Grace listened without interrupting. Her face aged 10 years during the telling. By the end, she looked like she'd aged 20. And Derek? Grace asked quietly. Downstairs. Uncle Victor banned him from this floor. Hospital security has his photo. Good. Grace's voice was steel wrapped in silk. Your uncle wants to destroy him. Financially, professionally, personally. He's already made calls. Every bank in California. Every business partner. The board at Derek's company. Victor says Derek's career is over if he follows through. But he wanted my opinion first. Wanted me to talk to you. Because this is your choice. Not his. Not mine. Yours. What do you mean? Victor can make Derek's life hell. Can take everything. Leave him with nothing. But that kind of destruction has consequences. For you. For your daughter. Derek's scandal becomes your scandal. Your daughter grows up Googling her father's name and finding articles about bigamy and fraud and assault. Is that what you want, or do you want this handled quietly? Settled privately. Give Derek an escape route in exchange for everything you're owed. Charlie thought about Grace Charlotte Hayes, about her daughter growing up with a father's crimes attached to her name, about classmates Googling, about teachers whispering, about job interviews and background checks in the weight of someone else's sins. I want the truth on record. Charlie's voice was steady. Legal record, permanent record, but I don't want it splashed across newspapers. I don't want Grace growing up defined by her father's mistakes. So yes, private settlement, but only if Derek signs everything, gives me everything, and never contest it, ever. That's a tall order. I have leverage. Charlie gestured to the tablet Nina had left. 50 witnesses, security footage, hospital records, police reports, and Uncle Victor's resources. Derek's career survives or dies based on what story gets told. His choice. What about Vanessa's baby? The question hung heavy between them. Charlie had thought about this. Thought about it all night while listening to Melissa talk about Emma. About a little girl who'd never met her father, who asked why Daddy didn't love her, who blamed herself for not being good enough to make him stay. If Vanessa's really pregnant, Derek can have a relationship with that child. Through lawyers, through supervised visitation, through child support. But that baby doesn't get access to Grace, not until they're adults and can choose for themselves. I won't have my daughter raised around a woman who tried to kill her before she was born. Grace studied Charlie's face for a long moment. You sound like your grandmother. Good. She survived worse than this. She did. But Charlotte, surviving isn't the same as thriving. I don't want you to just survive this. I want you to build something better. Something that isn't defined by Derek's failures. Something that's yours. Yours and Grace's. A life he can't touch, can't ruin, can't even reach. How? By choosing yourself, not revenge, not justice, not even closure, just yourself, your daughter, your future. Let Uncle Victor handle Derek. Let Nina handle the legal details. Let James handle the investigation. You focus on healing, on preparing for your daughter, On building a life worth living. Charlie touched her belly, felt Grace kick. Strong, persistent. What if I'm not strong enough? You're already strong enough. You've been strong enough for months. Staying in a bad marriage while pregnant takes strength. Confronting your husband's mistress takes strength. Documenting everything takes strength. You've been strong this whole time. You just didn't realize it. I was stupid. I saw the signs and I stayed. You were hopeful. You wanted to believe the best. That's not stupid. That's human. But now you know the truth, and knowing means you can make different choices, better choices, choices that protect your daughter instead of protecting Derek's feelings. The door opened. Uncle Victor entered. Behind him, James Thornton carrying a briefcase. Both men looked tired, like they'd been up all night, which they probably had. Charlotte, Victor sat in the chair beside her bed. We have the settlement agreement drafted. Nina reviewed it. 3 other attorneys reviewed it. It's ironclad. Derek signs or we go nuclear. But we need your approval first. Need to make sure this is what you want. James opened the briefcase, pulled out a document, thick, probably 60 pages. Here's the summary: full custody with supervised visitation. Derek gets 2 hours every other week, supervised by a court-appointed professional. He pays for the supervisor. He pays child support, $3,000 per month until Grace turns 18. He returns all stolen property, including your grandmother's bracelet. He pays you $200,000 for dissipation of marital assets. He transfers the house to your name, both cars, all joint accounts. He keeps his retirement accounts and any separate property. But everything acquired during the marriage comes to you. What about Melissa? Separate agreement. Derek pays her $97,000 in back child support, plus $2,000 per month going forward for Emma. He also has supervised visitation with Emma. Same terms, 2 hours every other week. And Vanessa? If she's pregnant, Derek pays standard child support, determined by California guidelines. But no custody, no visitation unless Vanessa requests it. And you're not required to allow contact between Grace and any half-siblings until Grace is 18. Charlie read through the document slowly. Every clause, every provision, every protection for Grace, every restriction on Derek. It was perfect. Exactly what she'd asked for. Everything she needed to build a life without him. What if he doesn't sign? Then we go to court. We present the security footage, the witness statements, the financial records, James's investigation into the bigamy and the pattern of abandonment. We ask for full custody, no visitation, maximum child support, restitution for theft, and we file criminal charges. Bigamy, fraud, accessory to assault. Derek goes to prison, loses everything, including any chance of a relationship with Grace. He'll sign. Charlie's voice was certain. He's a coward. He'll take the easy way out. He always does. Probably. Victor smiled, thin, satisfied. But we're prepared either way. The question is, are you prepared? Because once Derek signs this, there's no going back. No reconciliation, no second chances. Your marriage is over. Permanently. Are you ready for that? Charlie thought about the credit card statements, about Paris, about Vanessa's phone call, about Melissa and Emma and the other children Derek had abandoned, about Grace kicking inside her, about the future they'd have, just the two of them, building something new, something better, something Derek couldn't touch. I'm ready. The door opened, Nina entered, still wrinkled, still tired, but smiling. Derek's lawyer just called. Derek wants to talk, wants to negotiate. He's willing to sign if we agree to some modifications. What modifications? Charlie asked. More visitation, 4 hours a week instead of 2. And he wants the visitation unsupervised after 6 months, if he completes parenting classes. No, Charlie's voice was flat. 2 hours supervised, period. He doesn't get to negotiate. He doesn't get to modify. He signs or we go to court. Those are his options. Nina's smile widened. That's what I told his lawyer. He's calling Derek now. We should have an answer within an hour. Good, because I want to go home. I want to sleep in my own bed. In my own house. The house Derek's about to sign over to me. Charlie looked at her mother, at Uncle Victor, at Nina, at James. Thank you, all of you, for helping me, for believing me, for protecting Grace, your family. Victor stood, kissed Charlie's forehead. You and Grace, my sister's daughter and granddaughter. I'd do anything for you, you know that. In Charlotte, Derek made a mistake. A lot of mistakes, but his biggest mistake was underestimating you. He thought you were weak, dependent, that you'd stay no matter what. He was wrong. I almost proved him right. Almost doesn't count. You left, you fought back, you protected your daughter. That's what matters, not how long you stayed, but that you left when it mattered most. Charlie touched her belly, felt Grace kick. Yes, she left when it mattered, when Grace's safety was at stake, when the lies became unbearable, when staying meant teaching her daughter that abuse was acceptable, that betrayal was forgivable, that women should shrink themselves to make men comfortable. No, Grace Charlotte Hayes would learn different lessons, would learn that women were strong, that mothers protected their children, that leaving took more courage than staying, that choosing yourself wasn't selfish, it was survival, and survival was something Castellano women knew how to do. Charlie was released from the hospital that afternoon. Uncle Victor offered his guest house. Grace offered her childhood bedroom. Nina offered her spare room. Charlie chose none of them. I want to go home. My home, the house Derek and I bought together. I want one night, just me and Grace, before everything changes. They tried to argue. She was immovable. So Nina drove her home, walked her inside, checked every room like she expected Derek to be hiding in a closet. But the house was empty, dark, silent. Derek's car wasn't in the driveway. His keys weren't on the hook. His shoes weren't by the door. Gone. Like he'd already moved out. Already moved on. Already started building in his next life with his next victim. I'll stay if you want. Nina stood in the doorway, reluctant to leave. I can sleep on the couch. Make sure you're okay. I'm okay, I promise. I just need some time, some space, some quiet to think. Call me if you need anything. Anything at all. I'll be here in 10 minutes. Nina left, the door closed. Charlie was alone. Truly alone for the first time in 7 years. No husband, no expectations, no one to manage or accommodate or shrink herself for. Just her and Grace. In a house that finally felt like it might become a home. She walked through each room slowly. The living room where they'd argued about paint colors. Derek wanted gray, Charlie wanted cream. They'd compromised on beige. The couch where they'd watched television in silence for the past 6 months. Derek on his phone, Charlie pretending not to notice. The kitchen where she'd made him breakfast every Sunday. Scrambled eggs, bacon, toast, his favorite. While she'd eaten standing up, picking at whatever was left. Never sitting, never resting, always serving. The dining room where they'd hosted dinner parties. Derek showing off, playing the successful developer with the beautiful wife and the important family connections. Using her, using Uncle Victor, using everyone to build his career while his marriage crumbled. The bedroom, their bed, queen size. They'd meant to upgrade when they bought the house. Get a king, more space, more comfort. But Derek kept saying it wasn't a priority. They'd do it later, after the baby, after things settled, after. Always after, never now. Charlie looked at the bed, tried to remember the last time Derek had touched her, really touched her, with love instead of obligation, with desire instead of duty. She couldn't remember. Months, maybe longer. Their marriage had been dead for a long time. She just hadn't wanted to admit it. The nursery. The door was closed. Charlie opened it slowly. The room was half finished, walls painted pale yellow. She'd done that herself while Derek was at work. Spent a weekend in old clothes with paint in her hair and Grace kicking inside her belly in a vision of the future that made her smile. That future was gone now, replaced with something harder. Lonelier, but maybe better. Maybe honest at least. Maybe real. The crib sat unassembled in the corner. Pieces still in the box, instructions on top. Derek was supposed to put it together last weekend. Supposed to spend Saturday morning building his daughter's crib while Charlie organized baby clothes. But he'd gotten a call, emergency at work, had to go in, would do it next weekend. Promise, another lie, another broken promise, another weekend spent with Vanessa instead of his pregnant wife. Charlie sat on the floor of the empty nursery, 3 in the morning, the worst hour, when every fear felt magnified, every failure amplified, every choice questioned. I brought you into a lie. She whispered it to Grace, to herself, to the dark room. I knew something was wrong and I stayed anyway. Because I was scared. Because I thought love was supposed to be hard. Because I didn't want to be a single mother. Because I didn't want to fail. Because I didn't want to prove everyone right who said I was too young to get married. That Derek wasn't good enough for me. That I was making a mistake. Grace kicked, strong, insistent, like she was arguing. You're right, Charlie laughed. Watery, broken. This isn't your fault. This is mine and his. Mostly his. But I stayed. I saw the signs and I stayed. I let you get hurt because I wasn't brave enough to leave. Another kick. Harder. Angrier. Okay. Okay. You're mad at me. I get it. I'm mad at me too. But baby girl, I promise you something. I promise I'm done being scared. Done being small. Done letting other people's choices define my life. Your life. Our life. Starting now. Starting tonight. We're done being victims. We're survivors. Like Nana. Like Grandma. Like every Castellano woman before us. We survive the unsurvivable. And then we build something better. Charlie pulled out her phone, opened her photos, scrolled to the ultrasound images. Grace Charlotte Hayes, profile shot, little nose, little chin, perfect. You're going to be amazing. So strong, so smart, so brave. Everything I wasn't. Everything I'm going to teach you to be. And you know what? You're going to have the best life, the best mom, the best family. Uncle Victor already loves you. He's going to spoil you rotten. And Grandma Grace, she's going to teach you all the things I don't know. How to be strong during hard times. How to survive when everything feels impossible. How to keep going when you want to give up. Her phone buzzed. A text from Derek. We need to talk. Charlie stared at it for a long moment, then typed back. No, we need you to sign papers. That's all. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared, appeared again. Charlie, please. Let me explain. There's nothing to explain. I know about Melissa, about Emma, about the others. I know what you are, who you are. There's nothing left to say. The dots appeared again, stayed there for a long time, then disappeared. No response. Good. What could he possibly say that would matter? What explanation could justify bigamy, fraud, abandonment, multiple families destroyed because he was too coward to be honest, too selfish to be faithful, too broken to be a real man? Nothing. There was nothing Derek could say that would change anything. The only thing left was paperwork, signatures, the legal dissolution of a marriage that had been dead for months. Charlie stood, walked to the bathroom, looked at herself in the mirror, the same mirror where she'd taken pregnancy photos every week, documenting her growing belly, celebrating each milestone. Week 12, first trimester, done. Week 16, started showing. Week 20, halfway there. Week 24, 6 months, almost viable, almost safe. She'd gained 32 pounds. The doctor said it was perfect, healthy, exactly what she should gain. But Derek had stopped looking at her like she was beautiful. Started looking at her like she was inconvenient. Like she was something that had replaced his wife. Vanessa's words echoed, you let yourself go. Like pregnancy was something Charlie had done to her or Sippa instead of something they'd done together. Like growing a human was lazy instead of miraculous. Like sacrifice was failure instead of strength. Charlie touched her belly. Your father is an idiot. You know that, right? He traded a miracle for cheap perfume and cheaper lies. He traded us for someone who'll leave him the minute someone better comes along, because that's who Vanessa is. That's who they all are. The women who go for married men, they're not looking for love. They're looking for easy, for temporary, for someone else's husband, because they're too broken to build something real. Grace kicked in agreement. Charlie walked to the kitchen, opened the refrigerator. Derek's meal prep containers lined the shelves. Organized, color-coded, Monday through Friday. She'd made them every Sunday evening, planned his macros, calculated his proteins and carbs and fats, made sure he had everything he needed for his marathon training, for his body, for his precious routine that couldn't be disrupted. While Charlie had eaten whatever was left, standing at the counter, too tired to sit, too busy managing his life to take care of herself, not anymore. Charlie took out every container, all 15 of them, lined them up on the counter, opened each lid, looked at the carefully portioned meals, chicken breast, brown rice, steamed broccoli, the same thing every day because Derek said variety wasn't important. Consistency was important. Results were important. Then she dumped them all into the garbage disposal, one by one, watching the food disappear down the drain, listening to the grinding sound that felt like freedom, like reclamation, like the death of the good wife she'd been trying so hard to be. When the last container was empty, Charlie ordered pizza, extra cheese, extra pepperoni, garlic knots, chocolate lava cake. Everything Derek said was bad for the baby. Everything her doctor said was fine in moderation. Everything Charlie had denied herself because Derek said they needed to be healthy, to be disciplined, to be better. The pizza arrived 30 minutes later. Charlie ate sitting on the kitchen floor. 3 slices, 2 garlic knots, half the lava cake. Grace kicked approvingly. Like she was saying, finally, Mom, finally you're feeding us real food instead of whatever was left over from his perfect meals. You're going to love pizza, baby girl. It's the food of survivors, of people who refuse to pretend everything's fine, of women who eat sitting down instead of standing up at the counter like they don't deserve a chair. Charlie's phone buzzed. Nina, Derek's lawyer, called. He'll sign tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., at Victor's lawyer's office. Everything we asked for. No modifications. He's taking the deal. Relief flooded through her. It's really over. It's really over. Congratulations. You're about to be a free woman. Free. The word felt strange. Foreign. Charlie hadn't been free in 7 years, had been Mrs. Derek Hayes, the curator who married the developer, the niece who introduced her husband to all the right people, the good wife who managed his life so he could focus on his career, the pregnant woman who'd been cheated on and abandoned and pushed down at a wine tasting because she'd dared to ask for her grandmother's bracelet back. But tomorrow she'd just be Charlotte Hayes. Single mother, Castellano, survivor, free. Charlie finished the pizza, cleaned up, walked back to the nursery, looked at the unassembled crib, at the instructions sitting on top of the box. Derek was supposed to do this, supposed to be the dad who built his daughter's crib, who prepared her room, who anticipated her arrival with joy instead of dread. But Derek wasn't that man, would never be that man. So Charlie would do it herself. She opened the box, pulled out the pieces, read the instructions carefully. Then she started building. Allen wrench, screws, support rails, one piece at a time, her hands steady, her mind clear. With each piece she assembled, the future became more solid, more real, more possible. Grace would have a crib, built by her mother, not waiting for a father who was never coming, not depending on a man who didn't want them, just a mother who would do whatever it took, build whatever needed building, fix whatever was broken, create a life worth living. By dawn, the crib stood complete, white, simple, beautiful. Charlie tested it, sturdy, safe, perfect. There you go, baby girl, your first piece of furniture, built by your mom, who's going to build everything else you need. A home, a family, a life, all of it, just the two of us. And we're going to be just fine. Grace kicked, one final approval, then settled. Like she was saying, okay, Mom. Okay, I believe you. We're going to be okay. Charlie climbed into the rocking chair Nina had gifted her last month, closed her eyes, finally slept. In the nursery she'd painted, with the crib she'd built, preparing for a future that was finally just hers. Derek arrived at Victor Castellanos' lawyer's office at 9:45 a.m. Early, nervous, wearing his good suit. The charcoal gray one Charlie had bought him for their anniversary 3 years ago, back when she still thought buying him nice things would make him love her more. His lawyer, Richard Chen, waited in the lobby. Expensive suit, tired eyes. He tried to talk Derek out of signing, tried to argue they could get better terms, more visitation, less child support, shared custody. But Derek knew better, knew that fighting meant exposure, meant criminal charges, meant Victor Castellano making phone calls that would end his career permanently. Better to sign, take the loss, start over somewhere else. Maybe Texas, maybe Florida, somewhere far from California, from Victor's influence, from Charlie's family, from the wreckage of his old life. The elevator doors opened. Victor's lawyer, Margaret Thornton, waited in a conference room. Nina Sullivan sat beside her. Both women looked at Derek like he was something they'd scraped off their shoes. "Mr. Hayes, please sit." Margaret gestured to a chair, across from her, across from Nina, like he was on trial, which he basically was. Derek sat, Richard sat beside him. The conference room was cold, modern, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Napa. Victor's office building, Victor's lawyer, Victor's terms. Derek had no power here, no leverage, no options. "We have the settlement agreement." Margaret slid a document across the table. 63 pages. "Your lawyer has already reviewed it. We've made no changes since the last draft. Sign or don't. But if you don't sign, we file criminal charges. Bigamy, fraud, accessory to assault. You'll be arrested this afternoon. So choose wisely." Derek picked up the document, read the first page, then the second, then the third. Each clause felt like a knife. Full custody to Charlotte. Supervised visitation for Derek. 2 hours every other week. $3,000 per month in child support. $200,000 immediate payment for dissipation of marital assets. The house transferred to Charlotte. Both cars. All joint accounts. Everything. Gone. "This is everything I own." Derek's voice was hollow. "You're taking everything." "No, we're taking everything you stole. Everything you spent on your mistress. Everything you should have spent on your wife and child. You keep your retirement accounts, your salary, your ability to earn. That's more than you deserve." "I can't afford this. Can't afford $3,000 a month plus $2,000 for Emma plus—" Derek stopped, realized his mistake. "Plus child support for which other children?" "Mr. Hayes?" Margaret's voice was ice. "Because our investigation suggests there are at least 3 others, maybe more. Children you've abandoned, women you've defrauded, a pattern stretching back 10 years. Would you like us to contact them too? Add their claims to this settlement? Or would you prefer to sign and walk away, while you still can?" Derek's hands shook. "I'll sign." "Good choice." Margaret pulled out a pen, placed it in front of Derek. "Sign every page where indicated. Initial every clause, date each signature. Your lawyer will notarize." Derek picked up the pen, stared at the first signature line. This was it. The end of his marriage, the end of his family, the end of everything he'd built over 7 years. Except he hadn't built anything. He'd destroyed everything. Destroyed Charlie's trust. Destroyed their marriage. Destroyed any chance his daughter would ever respect him. Destroyed multiple families because he was too selfish to be faithful. Too cowardly to be honest. Too broken to be a real man. "Mr. Hayes," Margaret's voice was impatient, "we don't have all day. Sign or leave. Those are your options." Derek signed. First page, then the next, then the next. 63 pages, 63 signatures, 6 years of marriage, dissolved in ink. When he finished, Margaret collected the documents, handed copies to Richard. "You have 48 hours to vacate the marital home. Remove your personal belongings only. Everything else stays. The house is Charlotte's now. If you're still there in 48 hours, she'll have you arrested for trespassing." "Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not our concern. You should have thought about that before you committed bigamy and fraud." Margaret stood. "The $200,000 is due in 30 days. If you fail to pay, we'll garnish your wages. We'll seize your retirement accounts. We'll put liens on any property you acquire. We'll make your life hell until every penny is paid. Understood?" Derek nodded, couldn't speak, couldn't think, just nodded, like a puppet. Good. Now get out. Charlotte doesn't want to see you, doesn't want to talk to you, doesn't want anything from you except money and distance. So give her that. It's the least you can do. Derek stood, walked to the elevator. Richard followed. Neither spoke until they were in the parking lot. In Richard's car, driving away from Victor's building, away from Charlie's lawyers, away from the last remnants of Derek's old life. You're an idiot. Richard's voice was flat, factual. You had a good wife, a good life, and you destroyed it for a 28-year-old assistant who's now facing assault charges. Do you understand how stupid that is? I know. Do you? Because I've been practicing law for 30 years. I've seen a lot of stupid, but you're top 5, maybe top 3. You committed felonies, multiple felonies. You're lucky you're not going to prison. Lucky Charlotte's more interested in moving on than destroying you. Lucky Victor Castellano hasn't made the phone calls he's threatened to make. You're lucky. Do you understand that? I understand. Good, because here's what happens next. You're going to pack your things. You're going to leave California. You're going to find a job somewhere far away, and you're going to pay every dollar you owe to Charlotte, to Melissa, to every woman and child you have abandoned. You're going to be a man for once in your pathetic life. Can you do that? Derek didn't answer, didn't know if he could, didn't know if he'd ever been capable of being a man instead of a coward, a fraud, a ghost who moved through women's lives, leaving wreckage in his wake. Richard dropped him at his car. Derek drove home, to the house that wasn't his anymore, to the nursery he'd never finished, to the life he'd destroyed one lie at a time. Charlie's car was in the driveway. Derek's heart sank. He didn't want to see her, didn't want to face her, didn't want to watch her pack his life into boxes and throw him out of their home. But she had a right, more than a right, an obligation to make sure he left, make sure he didn't steal anything else, didn't take anything that belonged to her or their daughter. Derek unlocked the door, stepped inside, found Charlie sitting at the dining room table, suitcases beside the door. His suitcases, already packed. I packed your things. Charlie's voice was cold, distant. Clothes, toiletries, personal items, everything else stays. The furniture, the dishes, the decorations, all of it. This is my house now, my home. You're just a guest who overstayed his welcome. Charlie, please, let me explain. No. Charlie stood, slid a folder across the table. That's your copy of the settlement agreement. My lawyer has the original. So does the court. So does Uncle Victor. So does your mother. Derek opened the folder. His hand shook. Inside were copies of the signed agreement, plus something else. Bank statements, credit card statements. Every charge highlighted, every lie documented, every theft proven. 52 pages. Charlie's voice was calm, too calm. Every charge you made to our joint account, every hotel stay, every gift, every payment to Vanessa's apartment, $47,312. I highlighted the transaction dates. Notice anything? Derek looked at the first page. His stomach turned. The charges started exactly 1 week after they'd confirmed Charlie's pregnancy. 1 week after they'd seen their daughter's heartbeat. 1 week after Charlie had quit her job. You celebrated my pregnancy by taking Vanessa to Tahoe, charged it to our joint account. The account I'd contributed to for 7 years before I left my job to prepare for our baby. Derek couldn't speak, couldn't deny it. The evidence was right there, in black and white, every lie, every betrayal, every choice he'd made to prioritize Vanessa over Charlie. Page 12 is interesting. Charlie continued like he wasn't dying inside. That's the credit card statement from our anniversary. Remember? You said you had to work in Los Angeles. Unavoidable client meeting. I stayed home, pregnant, alone, crying because you missed our dinner reservation while you took Vanessa to Paris. The Hotel Plaza Athénée, $3,200 for the suite, another $1,800 for shopping, $700 for dinner at Le Jules Verne. I Googled it. It's in the Eiffel Tower. How romantic. Charlie, page 23 is my favorite. Charlie talked over him, Like his words didn't matter, like he didn't matter. That's my grandmother's Cartier bracelet, the one you said you'd put in the safe, the one you had resized for Vanessa's wrist. My grandmother survived the Holocaust wearing that bracelet. My mother gave it to me on my wedding day. You gave it to your mistress. The appraised value is $42,000. I want it back. You have 48 hours. It's not that simple. It's extremely simple. You return my property or I file theft charges. Grand theft. Felony level. Uncle Victor's lawyers are very enthusiastic about that option. Derek sat down, heavily, like all his strings had been cut. What do you want? I want nothing. I already got everything. You signed it away this morning. The house, the cars, custody, support, all of it. You gave me everything because the alternative was prison. So congratulations. You made a smart choice for once in your life. I loved you. The words came out broken, desperate. I did, at the beginning, when we first got married. I loved you. Maybe. Or maybe you loved what I could do for you. The connections, the family, the access. Maybe you never loved me. Just loved what having me gave you. A beautiful wife, a fancy family, a door into Victor's world. I don't know, and I don't care anymore. Because whatever you felt, it wasn't enough. Wasn't strong enough to keep you faithful. Wasn't real enough to survive the first pretty face who smiled at you. Vanessa made me feel. I don't care what Vanessa made you feel. Charlie's voice rose for the first time. Cold fury replacing the calm. I don't care that I was pregnant and tired and focused on our baby instead of you. I don't care that you felt neglected, lonely, unappreciated. You're a grown man. You had words. You could have talked to me, told me how you felt, suggested counseling, worked on our marriage. Instead, you hired a 28-year-old assistant, spent $47,000 on her, gave her my grandmother's bracelet, took her to Paris on our anniversary, got her pregnant, let her push me, let her hurt our daughter. You made choices, Derek, terrible choices, and now you face the consequences. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're weak, you're selfish, you're a coward. You'd rather lie than fight, rather run than face the truth, rather destroy multiple families than be honest for 5 minutes. I understand exactly who you are. I just wish I'd understood sooner. Before I married you, before I wasted 7 years, before I brought a baby into this disaster. She's my baby too. No, Charlie's voice was ice. She's my baby. You're just a sperm donor with supervised visitation rights. You gave up your right to be her father when you chose Vanessa, when you stole from us, when you abandoned Melissa and Emma, when you made being a deadbeat dad your primary hobby. You're not a father, you're barely a man. You're just someone who shows up every other week for 2 hours while a court-appointed supervisor makes sure you don't screw up your daughter the way you screwed up everything else. Derek wanted to argue, wanted to defend himself, wanted to explain that it wasn't that simple, that he'd been unhappy, that Charlie had changed, that the pregnancy had changed everything, that he'd felt trapped, suffocated, like his life was spiraling out of control and Vanessa had been the only thing that made sense. But all of that was bullshit. He knew it. Charlie knew it. His lawyer knew it. Victor knew it. Everyone knew it except maybe Vanessa, who was currently sitting in county jail facing assault charges because Derek had been too cowardly to end his marriage honestly. I'm sorry. The words felt hollow, inadequate, but Derek didn't know what else to say. I know that doesn't fix anything, doesn't change anything, but I'm sorry for hurting you, for lying, for being exactly the person you just described. You deserve better. You and Grace. You both deserved so much better than me. I know. Charlie's voice softened, not with forgiveness, with pity. That's why I'm taking it. Taking better, building better, for Grace, for myself, for the future we're going to have without you. So thank you for signing the papers, for giving me everything I asked for finally doing one decent thing in this entire disaster. Derek stood, picked up the suitcases, walked to the door, stopped, turned back. Can I ask you something? What? Why didn't you leave sooner? When you first suspected? Why wait until, Derek gestured vaguely, until all this? Charlie was quiet for a long moment. Because I loved you, and love makes you stupid, makes you believe impossible things, makes you think if you just try harder, love harder, sacrifice more, the other person will finally see your worth, finally choose you, finally love you back. But you can't love someone into loving you, can't sacrifice enough to make them stay, can't shrink yourself small enough to make them feel big. So I stopped trying, and the moment I stopped trying, everything became clear. You didn't love me, probably never did. You just loved having me, and that was never going to be enough. Derek nodded, couldn't argue, couldn't defend himself, just nodded and walked out the door, out of Charlie's house, out of Charlie's life, out of his daughter's future. He loaded the suitcases into his car, drove away, didn't look back. What was the point? The house wasn't his anymore. The life wasn't his anymore. Charlie wasn't his anymore. Nothing was his except the wreckage he'd created and the bills he'd have to pay, and the supervised visits with a daughter who would grow up knowing her father was a failure. Derek drove to a motel, cheap, anonymous, the kind of place people went when they had nowhere else to go. Checked in, carried his suitcases to a room that smelled like cigarettes and regret, sat on the bed, stared at the wall. His phone buzzed. Vanessa. He declined the call, then blocked her number. What was the point? She was facing criminal charges. He was banned from contacting her. Their affair had destroyed 2 lives and accomplished nothing. Just wreckage. Just proof that Derek was exactly who Charlie said he was. A coward. A fraud. A man who destroyed everything he touched. Derek lay back on the scratchy motel comforter, stared at the ceiling, thought about Grace, about the daughter he'd never really know. Who'd grow up hearing stories about her father, the bigamist, the thief, the man who'd abandoned multiple families because being a real man was too hard. She'd hate him. Eventually, when she was old enough to understand, she'd hate him. She'd be right to hate him, and there was nothing Derek could do about it except pay his child support and show up for his supervised visits and try to be slightly less terrible than he'd been up to now. It wasn't much, but it was all he had left. And maybe if he was very lucky and worked very hard and became someone different, maybe someday Grace would give him a chance. Maybe someday she'd let him be her father instead of just the man who paid child support. Maybe, but probably not. Derek closed his eyes, listened to the sounds of the motel, people fighting in the next room, traffic on the highway, his own breathing. The sound of a man who'd lost everything because he'd been too stupid to appreciate what he had when he had it. And somewhere across town, in a house that used to be his, Charlie was probably setting up the nursery, probably assembling the crib he'd never bothered to put together, probably preparing for their daughter's arrival, probably building a life he'd never be part of, a life that would be better without him. Derek knew that now, understood it finally. Charlie and Grace would be better off without him, would thrive without his lies, his betrayals, his constant failures. And that knowledge hurt worse than anything else. Hurt worse than losing the house, worse than losing his career, worse than facing criminal charges. Because Derek finally understood what he'd lost. Not just a wife, not just a family, but the chance to be someone better, someone worth loving, someone his daughter could be proud of. And that chance was gone, destroyed, lost forever because Derek had been too weak to fight for it when it mattered. Too late now, too late for everything except regret. And that's all Derek had left, just regret, and 48 hours to figure out where to go next. Because staying in Napa meant running into Charlie, into Victor, into everyone who knew what he'd done, what he was. Better to leave, start over, again. Like he'd done in Nevada, like he'd done in Arizona, like he'd done everywhere he'd run from his mistakes. Running was what Derek did best, the only thing he had ever been good at. And now he'd run again. One more time. One more fresh start that would inevitably end the same way. Because Derek never changed, never learned, never became someone better. He was just Derek Hayes. Professional coward, serial abandoner, the man who destroyed families because building them was too hard. And that's all he'd ever be. 3 days later, Charlie sat in the nursery watching Grace's crib mobile spin slowly. Stars and moons Uncle Victor had imported from Italy. Beautiful, expensive, perfect. The nursery was complete now. Walls painted, crib assembled, dresser organized with tiny clothes in every drawer. Everything ready, everything waiting. Just 3 more months until Grace arrived. 3 more months of being pregnant and alone and building a future that looked nothing like what Charlie had imagined 7 years ago when she'd married Derek. But maybe that was okay. Maybe the life she'd imagined had always been a fantasy. Maybe this life, honest, hard hers, was better. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Charlie hesitated, but something made her answer. Some instinct that said this call mattered. Hello? Mrs. Hayes? A woman's voice. Nervous, shaking. My name is Melissa Brennan. James Thornton gave me your number. He said you might be willing to talk to me. About Derek. About everything. Melissa, Derek's first wife, Emma's mother, the woman Derek had abandoned 4 years ago, the woman who'd proven Derek's pattern, his history, his true nature. I'm willing to talk. Charlie sat up straighter. What do you need? I need to know if you're okay. If your baby's okay. I saw the news. About the assault. About everything. And I saw you on TV, pregnant and hurt. And I saw myself 4 years ago, pregnant and alone and abandoned. And I thought you should know that it's not your fault. None of it. It's him. It's who he is. What he does. The words settled over Charlie like a blanket. Warm. Comforting. Validating. Thank you. I needed to hear that. I've been blaming myself for staying so long, for not seeing the signs sooner, for bringing Grace into this mess. Don't. Melissa's voice was firm. I did the same thing. Spent years blaming myself, thinking if I'd been prettier, smarter, more interesting, he would have stayed. I analyzed at every conversation, every fight, looking for where I failed. But it wasn't me. It was never me. And it's not you either. How long did it take you to believe that? Honestly, about 2 years. A lot of therapy, a lot of crying, a lot of angry nights wondering why I wasn't enough. But eventually I realized he was the one who wasn't enough. Not me, not you, not any of us. He's just broken. And broken people break things. Break people. It's what they do. Charlie touched her belly, felt Grace kick. Does Emma ask about him? Silence, then a sigh. All the time. She sees other kids with their dads at the playground. At school, she asks why her daddy doesn't love her, why he left, why he never calls. And I don't know what to tell her. How do you explain to a 4-year-old that her father is a coward, that he ran away, that she did nothing wrong but he left anyway? I don't know, but I'm going to have to figure it out because Grace is going to ask the same questions in a few years. And I need to have answers that don't destroy her, that don't make her feel like she's the reason her father wasn't there. Can I ask you something? Melissa's voice was hesitant. The settlement James mentioned. Derek's paying you child support. $200,000, full custody. Are you willing to help me get what I'm owed? Because I've been trying for 3 years, filed papers, got court orders. But Derek always runs, changes when, changes states. I can never find him long enough to enforce anything. But if you have lawyers, resources, maybe together we could actually make him pay. Make him take responsibility for once. Charlie thought about the settlement, about Uncle Victor's lawyers, about the power of having resources, of having family who protected you, of having leverage Derek couldn't escape. Yes, I'll help you. Uncle Victor's lawyers are already working on your case. James mentioned it. Derek owes you $97,000 in back support, plus ongoing payments. We're going to make sure you get every penny, I promise. Why? Melissa's voice cracked. Why would you help me? You don't even know me. Because we're the same. Both of us believed Derek's lies. Both of us got pregnant thinking we were building a family. Both of us got abandoned. And both of us have daughters who deserve better, who deserve fathers who pay their bills and show up for their kids. If Derek won't be that father, and he won't, then the least he can do is pay for what he destroyed. Thank you. Melissa was crying now. You don't know what this means. I've been fighting alone for so long, working 2 jobs, living paycheck to paycheck, while Derek just runs away and starts over like Emma doesn't exist, like I don't exist, like we're just inconveniences he can ignore. Not anymore. He signed a settlement. He can't run this time. His wages will be garnished. His assets seized if he doesn't pay. Uncle Victor made sure of it. Derek's running days are over. They talked for another hour. Melissa told Charlie everything. How she'd met Derek at a bar in Las Vegas. How he'd said he was divorced. How he'd been charming, attentive, perfect. How they'd gotten married after 3 months. How she'd gotten pregnant immediately. How Derek had seemed happy at first, excited about the baby, about their life together. And then Emma had been born. And Derek had changed, became distant, cold, started working late, started taking business trips, started lying about where he was, who he was with, what he was doing. Then one day when Emma was 3 months old, Derek had said he had to go to California. Business opportunity. He'd send money. Come back soon. Promise. He never came back, never sent money, just disappeared. Like Melissa and Emma had been a dream, a temporary detour. Nothing real, nothing worth staying for. I tried to find him. Melissa's voice was tired, defeated. Hired a private investigator, filed support enforcement, got court orders. But Derek always stayed one step ahead. New job, new state, new identity almost. Like he was a ghost. Until I saw the news. Saw him with you at that wine tasting. And I realized he'd done it again. Found a new woman, started a new family, while Emma and I were still waiting for him to come back. He's done this to others too, Charlie said quietly. James found at least 3 more. Maybe more. Women Derek married or dated, got pregnant, abandoned. It's what he does, who he is. A predator, a professional deadbeat, the kind of man who should come with a warning label. At least now we know. At least now we can warn the next one. Because there will be a next one. Men like Derek don't change. They just find new victims. Not if I can help it. Charlie's voice hardened. I'm going to make sure everyone knows who Derek Hayes is, what he's done. Not for revenge, not to destroy him. Just so other women don't make our mistake. Don't believe his lies. Don't waste years on a man who will never be what he promises. How? Public record, court documents. Everything's documented, everything's filed. Anyone who Googles Derek's name will find the truth. The bigamy, the fraud, the child support orders, the assault, all of it, forever. He won't be able to hide anymore. Won't be able to start fresh. His past will follow him. Finally. Melissa was quiet for a long moment. That's brilliant. Cruel maybe, but brilliant. It's justice, different from revenge. Revenge would be destroying him, making him suffer. I don't want that. I just want him to be held accountable, to face consequences, to stop hurting people. If public exposure does that, then it's worth it. What about Grace? What about Emma? Won't they see all this someday? Won't it hurt them? Maybe, probably, but lying to them would hurt worse. Pretending their father was a good man who just made mistakes? That's not protecting them. That's setting them up to trust the wrong people, to accept bad behavior, to think men like Derek are normal. I won't do that. I won't teach Grace to accept less than she deserves just to protect someone else's feelings. You're stronger than I was. No, I just have better resources. If I didn't have Uncle Victor, didn't have Nina, didn't have family who protected me, I'd be where you are, fighting alone, struggling, barely surviving. I'm not stronger. I'm just luckier. Then thank you for using your luck to help me, to help Emma, to help all of us, Derek, hurt. That means everything. They ended the call with promises to stay in touch, to support each other, to make sure their daughters knew each other, half-sisters who deserved to know they weren't alone, that their father's failures weren't their fault, that they came from strong mothers who'd survived the unsurvivable. Charlie sat in the rocking chair, touched her belly, thought about Emma, 4 years old, growing up without her father, without support, without the resources that made Charlie's situation bearable. It wasn't fair. Emma had done nothing wrong. Melissa had done nothing wrong. They just believed a liar, trusted a fraud, made the mistake of thinking Derek Hayes was a real man instead of a coward in a good suit. Her phone buzzed, a text from Nina. Vanessa made bail again. But there's something you need to know. She wants to meet with you. Says she has information about Derek. Says you need to hear it. What do you want me to tell her? Charlie stared at the message. Vanessa, the woman who'd pushed her, who'd threatened her, who'd been sleeping with her husband, who'd claimed to be pregnant with Derek's baby. What could Vanessa possibly have to say that Charlie would want to hear? Tell her yes, but only in a public place, with you present. I want to hear what she has to say. Nina responded immediately. Are you sure? She assaulted you, nearly hurt Grace. You don't owe her anything, I know. But if she has information about Derek, information that helps Melissa or the other women, then I need to hear it. Not for Vanessa, for them. Okay, I'll set it up. Tomorrow, coffee shop downtown, noon. I'll be there. So will James. You won't be alone with her. Thank you. Charlie set her phone down, closed her eyes. Tomorrow she'd face the woman who tried to hurt her baby, the woman who'd slept with her husband, the woman who'd called her fat and pathetic and every other cruel thing a younger, prettier woman could say. Sloane to a pregnant wife. But Charlie wasn't scared, wasn't anxious, just curious. What could Vanessa possibly say that would matter? What information could she have that would change anything? Only one way to find out. The coffee shop was crowded at noon, Saturday lunch rush, families, couples, groups of friends laughing over lattes and pastries. Normal people living normal lives. Charlie sat in a corner booth, Nina beside her, James Thornton standing nearby, watching the door, making sure Vanessa didn't bring anyone, didn't try anything, didn't put Charlie at risk. Vanessa arrived 15 minutes late. She looked smaller than Charlie remembered, thinner, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, no makeup, wearing jeans and a sweatshirt instead of the designer dresses she'd worn to the office. She looked young, scared, broken. She sat across from Charlie, wouldn't meet her eyes, just stared at her coffee cup, hands shaking slightly. Thank you for meeting me. Vanessa's voice was barely audible. I know you don't owe me anything. I know I don't deserve your time. But I need to tell you something, and you need to hear it. I'm listening. Charlie's voice was neutral, calm. She wouldn't give Vanessa the satisfaction of seeing her angry, hurt, vulnerable. I'm not pregnant. Vanessa's words came out in a rush. I lied. I wanted Derek to leave you. Thought if he believed I was carrying his baby, he'd choose me. But I'm not. Never was. I took a pregnancy test in front of him, but I'd bought a positive one online, fake. I lied about everything. Charlie felt nothing, no relief, no anger, just emptiness. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm tired of lying, Vanessa's voice cracked. Tired of being the person Derek made me, the other woman, the home wrecker, the liar. I'm not that person. Wasn't that person before him? And I don't want to be that person after. You pushed me while I was pregnant. You could have killed my baby. I know. Tears ran down Vanessa's face. I know. And I'm so sorry. I was so angry that day. At you, at him, at myself. I saw you, pregnant, married, secure, and I hated you, hated that you had everything I wanted, but you didn't have it either, did you? He lied to both of us, used both of us, made us both believe we were special, chosen, loved. What did he tell you about me? That you were cold, that your marriage was dead, that you'd trapped Wiesham with the pregnancy, that he was only staying until the baby was born. Then he'd leave, be with me, start our real life together. Vanessa wiped her eyes. I believed him, every word, because I wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe I was special enough to make a married man leave his wife. How stupid is that? Very stupid. Charlie's voice was flat. But I was stupid too. I saw the signs, found the hotel receipts, smelled her perfume on his shirts, watched our bank account drain, and I stayed because I was scared, because I didn't want to be a failure, Because I thought good wives worked on their marriages instead of leaving them. So yes, we were both stupid, but only one of us assaulted a pregnant woman. I know, and I'm facing charges, assault, possibly attempted murder. My lawyer says I could go to prison, probably will go to prison, and I deserve it. I know I do, but before that happens, I need to tell you something. Something Derek told me. Something you need to know. What? There are others, more than Melissa and Emma. Derek told me once when he was drunk. Said he'd been married 3 times before you. Had 4 other kids, all abandoned, all unpaid support. He said it like he was proud of it. Like being a deadbeat dad was an accomplishment. Like destroying families was a game he'd gotten really good at. Charlie's stomach turned. 4 other kids, 4 other women. Derek had destroyed at least 6 families, maybe more. And he'd done it deliberately, systematically, like it was his hobby. Do you have names, locations, anything specific? Some. I wrote down what I remembered. Vanessa pulled out a folded piece of paper, slid it across the table. Cities, approximate years, first names. It's not much, but maybe enough for James to track them down. Maybe enough to warn them, help them, make Derek pay for all of it. James took the paper, read it quickly, made notes on his phone. This is helpful, very helpful. I can work with this. Why are you telling us this? Nina asked. Why help Charlie? Why help us destroy Derek? He's the father of your supposed baby, your boyfriend, your future. Why turn on him now? Because he left me. Vanessa's voice was hollow. After the assault, after I got arrested, he called me once, told me to keep my mouth shut, not to say anything that would implicate him. Then he blocked my number, changed his phone, disappeared, left me to face charges alone while he signed his settlement and drove away. He didn't love me, never loved me, just used me. Same as he used all of you, and I'm done being used. What do you want from us? Charlie asked. Nothing. I don't want anything. I just want you to know the truth, all of it, so you can protect Grace, so you can help Melissa, so you can warn the other women, so Derek finally faces consequences for everything he's done. That's all. That's why I'm here. Charlie studied Vanessa's face, saw genuine remorse, genuine pain, genuine regret. This wasn't the confident, smirking assistant who'd worn Charlie's bracelet, who'd bragged about Paris, who'd pushed her down at the wine tasting. This was a broken 28-year-old who'd made terrible choices and was about to pay dearly for them. I'm not ready to forgive you. Charlie's voice was careful, measured. You hurt me. You endangered my daughter. That's not something I can just get. But I appreciate this, the information, the honesty, the apology. It doesn't fix anything. But it's more than Derek's ever given me. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know. I'm sorry for all of it, for believing his lies, for hurting you, for being so desperate for love that I destroyed someone else's life. I was wrong, completely wrong, and I'll spend a long time paying for it. What will you do now? Plead guilty, take whatever sentence they give me, serve my time, then leave California, start over somewhere Derek Hayes doesn't exist. Try to remember who I was before him, before all this, if that person even exists anymore. She does. Charlie surprised herself by saying it. You made terrible choices, but you're taking responsibility. That's more than most people do, more than Derek will ever do. So yes, that person still exists. The one who knows right from wrong, who apologizes when she hurts people, who tries to make things right even when it costs her. That's who you are. Not the woman who pushed me, not Derek's mistress, not the liar, just Vanessa, who made mistakes and is trying to be better. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. You don't know what that means, coming from you, after everything. I do know because I spent months hating myself, blaming myself, thinking I'd failed Derek, failed my marriage, failed my daughter. But my mom told me something. She said Derek's choices aren't my responsibility. His behavior isn't my fault. The only thing I'm responsible for is how I move forward, how I protect Grace, how I build a life worth living. The same is true for you. Derek's choices aren't your responsibility. What he did, who he is, that's on him. You're only responsible for your choices going forward. And right now, you're choosing honesty, accountability. That's good. That's growth. Keep doing that. Vanessa nodded, wiped her eyes. I hope your daughter knows how lucky she is to have a mom like you, who's strong and kind and willing to see the good in people even when they don't deserve it. She'll know. I'll make sure she knows that women can be strong and kind, that we can protect ourselves without becoming cruel, that we can demand accountability without losing our humanity. That's what I want to teach her. What I want her to learn from all this. Vanessa stood. Thank you for meeting me, for listening, for not treating me like I'm garbage, even though I probably deserve it. You deserve consequences. You're getting them. But you don't deserve to be garbage. Nobody does. Not even Derek. He just deserves to be held accountable. Finally, after years of running, Vanessa left. The coffee shop felt quieter somehow, like her confession had taken up all the space, all the air. Charlie sat back, exhausted, drained. That was intense, Nina said quietly. Are you okay? I don't know. I don't know what I feel. Sorry for her, maybe? She's 28. Her life is ruined. She's going to prison. For Derek, for a man who used her and left her. That's tragic. She made choices. So did I. I chose to stay with Derek, to ignore the signs, to believe his lies. If I'd left sooner, maybe Vanessa never would have pushed me. Maybe none of this would have happened. Maybe, stop. Nina's voice was firm. Stop blaming yourself. Vanessa made her choices. Derek made his choices. You made the best choices you could with the information you had. That's all anyone can do. You're not responsible for their failures. Just your own choices going forward. And right now, you're choosing to help Melissa, to protect Grace, to build a better life. Those are good choices, the right choices. Focus on that. Charlie nodded, touched her belly, felt Grace kick, strong, persistent, reminding her why she'd fought so hard, why she'd documented everything, why she'd refused to let Derek walk away unscathed. Not for revenge, for Grace, for Melissa, for Emma, for all the other children Derek had abandoned. They deserved better, deserved fathers who paid their bills, showed up, took responsibility. If Derek wouldn't be that father naturally, then Charlie would force him to be that father legally. It wasn't perfect, but it was something, and something was better than nothing. I want to hold a press conference, Charlie said suddenly. Public, documented, on the record. Tell the truth about Derek, about the bigamy, about the pattern of abandonment, about all of it. Not to destroy him, but to warn other women, to help the women he's already hurt, to make sure everyone knows who Derek Hayes really is. Are you sure? Nina asked carefully. That kind of exposure will follow Grace, follow you forever. Every Google search, every background check. Every time anyone looks up your name, they'll find this story. Is that what you want? I don't want it, but I need it. Need the truth on record. Need other women to know before they make our mistake. Need Derek's future victims to see his past crimes. Yes, it'll follow Grace, follow me. But lying would be worse. Pretending Derek was a good man who made mistakes? That teaches Grace to accept bad behavior, to forgive the unforgivable, to sacrifice herself for men who don't deserve it. I won't do that, won't teach her that. So yes, press conference, public record, permanent truth. Nina exchanged glances with James. Both nodded slowly. Okay, if that's what you want, we'll set it up. But Charlie, be prepared. It's going to get ugly. Derek will fight back. Try to discredit you. Call you bitter, vindictive. Say you're using Grace as a weapon. Are you ready for that? Yes, because I have the truth. The evidence, the documented pattern. Derek can say whatever he wants. The facts don't care. The security footage doesn't lie. The bank statements prove everything. Let him try to fight. Let him try to spin this. It won't work. The truth always wins eventually. And the truth is, Derek Hayes is a predator. A fraud. A deadbeat dad who's destroyed multiple families. That's who he is. That's what he's done. And now everyone's going to know. When do you want to do this? Soon, before Grace is born, before I'm too tired or too busy or too distracted. I want this done, finished, put to rest. So when Grace arrives, she arrives into a clean future, a fresh start, a life where her father's crimes are already documented and dealt with, where she doesn't have to wonder or worry or carry the weight of secrets. Everything's already public, already known, already handled. Okay, Nina made notes. I'll contact Uncle Victor, have him arrange it. His connections will ensure coverage. Press, media, everyone who matters. We'll hold it at the Castellano estate, same place where Vanessa pushed you. Full circle, poetic justice. Perfect, Charlie smiled, felt something settle in her chest. Peace maybe, or just the absence of shame. The freedom that came from deciding to tell the truth regardless of consequences. Let's do it. Let's make sure Derek Hayes never hurts another woman again. The press conference was held 3 days later, Saturday afternoon. The Castellano estate, same place where everything had started, where Vanessa had pushed Charlie, where Derek's lies had finally caught up with him, where 50 witnesses had seen the beginning of the end. Now 100 people filled the tasting room, reporters, cameras, journalists from every major outlet in California. Uncle Victor's influence had ensured coverage. This story would run everywhere, would be documented, archived, permanent. Charlie stood at the podium, 7 months pregnant now, her belly prominent, undeniable. A visual reminder of who'd been hurt, who'd been protected, who Derek had prioritized and who he'd abandoned. She wore a simple blue dress, her grandmother's pearl earrings, no jewelry, no makeup beyond basic coverage. She wanted to look honest, real, not polished or perfect or staged, just a pregnant woman telling the truth. Nina stood to her left, Uncle Victor to her right, James Thornton in the back, watching, protecting, making sure Derek didn't show up, didn't try to interfere, didn't attempt to stop the truth from coming out. My name is Charlotte Hayes. Charlie's voice was steady, strong. 3 weeks ago, I was assaulted while pregnant at this estate during a wine tasting. The assault was captured on video by multiple witnesses. I'm here today to share the truth, not for revenge, not for sympathy, but for accountability. She laid out the facts, clearly, concisely, without emotion. Just truth, the affair, the financial theft, the assault, Vanessa's confession, then the bigger revelation, the pattern, Melissa Brennan, Emma, the 3 other women James had tracked down, the 4 other children, Derek's history spanning a decade, 6 women, 7 children, all abandoned and all unpaid support, all left to struggle while Derek moved on to his next victim. I'm not the first woman Derek Hayes deceived. I'm not the only one he hurt. But I hope I'm the last. I'm speaking publicly because silence protects predators. Because other women deserve to know who they're dealing with. Because my daughter deserves to grow up knowing her mother fought for what was right. The questions came fast. She answered each one. Honestly, without malice, just facts. Do you hate Derek Hayes? No, I don't hate him. I pity him. He's 40 years old and he has nothing. No real relationships. No family who respects him. No children who love him. Just a trail of wreckage and a reputation that will follow him forever. That's not a life. That's a prison of his own making. I don't hate him. I just want him held accountable. Do you hate Vanessa Cole? I hate what she did, but I understand her situation better now. Derek told her I was his ex-wife, that our marriage was over, that I was unstable. The same lies he told Melissa 4 years ago. The same lies he's told every woman he's hurt. Vanessa made terrible choices. She's facing consequences. But she was also manipulated. She's discarded. Like all of us. What about the other women? Have you contacted them? Yes, we're working together now, sharing information, supporting each other, making sure Derek pays every dollar he owes. Not for revenge, for our children. They deserve fathers who support them, who show up, who take responsibility. If Derek won't do that voluntarily, we'll force him to do it legally. What do you want Derek Hayes to know? Charlie paused, thought about her answer carefully. I want him to know that his choices have consequences, that the women he hurt aren't going to stay silent, aren't going to protect him, aren't going to let him run anymore. We're holding him accountable, together, and we're going to make sure every woman who Googles his name knows exactly who he is before she makes our mistake. What about your daughter? Won't this hurt her? Won't she grow up with her father's crimes attached to her name? Maybe, probably. But lying to her would hurt worse. Pretending her father was a good man who made mistakes, that's not protecting her. That's teaching her to accept bad behavior, to forgive the unforgivable, to shrink herself for men who don't deserve it. I won't do that. I won't teach her that. So yes, this story will follow her, follow me, but at least it's the truth, and truth is a better foundation than lies. What's next for you? I'm going to have my baby. I'm going to build a life she can be proud of. I'm going to teach her that women are strong, that mothers protect their children, that leaving takes more courage than staying, that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. And I'm going to make sure she knows her father's failures aren't her fault, aren't her burden to carry, are just facts, documented, known, handled, so she can build her own life without shame, without secrets, without the weight of someone else's sins. The press conference ended, reporters swarmed, cameras flashed, questions shouted, but Charlie was done, had said everything she needed to say. The truth was public now, documented, permanent. Derek couldn't hide anymore, couldn't start fresh, couldn't find new victims without them knowing exactly what they were getting into. It was done. Finally, the fight was over. Uncle Victor guided her to his private office, away from the chaos, away from the cameras. Nina and James followed. They sat in silence for a long moment. You were perfect, Victor said finally. Honest, strong, dignified. You didn't attack Derek, didn't make yourself a victim, just told the truth. That's powerful. That's going to resonate. Good, because that's all I wanted, just truth, on record, forever. So Grace grows up knowing her mother didn't lie, didn't hide, didn't protect a man who didn't deserve protection. Just told the truth and let the consequences follow. Derek's going to lose everything, James said quietly. His reputation, his career, any chance of starting house anonymously. This story is going to follow him for the rest of his life. Good. Maybe the next woman will Google him. Maybe she'll see this press conference, see Melissa's interview, see the pattern, and maybe she'll run, save herself, save her future children. That's what I want. Not Derek's destruction, just protection for his future victims. You did the right thing. Nina squeezed Charlie's hand. I know it doesn't feel like it. I know it feels scary and exposing and wrong, but you did the right thing. For Grace, for Melissa, for all of us. Charlie touched her belly, felt Grace kick, strong, approving, like she knew, like she understood, like she was saying, good job, Mom. You told the truth. You protected me. You did what needed to be done. I'm tired, Charlie said quietly. So tired. Can someone drive me home? I just want to sleep. In my own bed, in my own house. Start preparing for Grace. Start building our life. Start letting all of this fade into the past where it belongs. Victor drove her home, walked her inside, made sure she was safe, comfortable, settled. Then he left, and Charlie was alone. In her house, her home, the place she'd built Grace's childhood, the place Derek would never live again. The place that was finally, truly just hers. She walked to the nursery, sat in the rocking chair, looked at the crib she'd built, the mobile spinning slowly, the dresser full of tiny clothes. Everything ready, everything waiting. Just 2 more months until Grace arrived. 2 more months of being pregnant and alone and scared and hopeful and exhausted and strong. 2 more months of building a life worth living, of preparing for motherhood, of becoming someone Grace could be proud of. Her phone buzzed. Her mother. How do you feel? Free. Charlie's voice was certain. Sure. I feel free. Like I've been carrying this weight for months and I finally put it down. Finally stopped protecting Derek. Stopped protecting everyone except myself and Grace. And now it's done. The truth is out. The consequences are his to face. And I'm free. Good. That's good, baby. Come to dinner tomorrow. Victor wants to teach you about wine. Says you should learn the family business. In case you want to come work for him after Grace is born, in case you want a career that's yours, not Derek's connections, not Derek's influence, just yours. Charlie smiled. Maybe, or maybe I'll go back to curating, or maybe I'll do something completely different. I have options now, real options, not just what Derek allows, what Derek approves, what Derek thinks is appropriate, just what I want, what makes me happy, what builds the life I want for Grace. That's growth. That's survival. Castellano women's specialty. Grace laughed. Yes, it is. Nana survived the Holocaust. I survived cancer. And you survived Derek Hayes. We're a long line of survivors, Charlotte. And Grace is going to be the strongest of us all because she's going to grow up watching you, learning from you, seeing what real strength looks like. Not staying in bad situations, but leaving them, building better, demanding more, refusing to settle for less than you deserve. I hope so. I hope I'm teaching her the right things. I hope 20 years from now, she looks back and thinks my mom was brave. My mom protected me. My mom showed me how to be strong without being cruel, how to demand accountability without losing humanity, how to survive the unsurvivable and build something beautiful from the wreckage. She will. Trust me. She will. They ended the call. Charlie sat in the darkening nursery, watched the last rays of sunset paint the walls gold and purple. A new day ending, a new life beginning. She pulled out the journal her mother had given her. Leather-bound, beautiful, empty pages waiting to be filled. Pages for Grace for when she was older, for when she had questions, for when she needed to understand. Charlie opened to the first page, started writing. My darling Grace Charlotte Hayes, you're not born yet, but I'm writing this now, while I still remember, while the truth is fresh. So someday when you have questions, you'll have answers. Real answers, honest answers, not fairy tales or lies or gentle fiction, just truth. Your father's name is Derek Hayes. He's not a villain in a storybook. He's just a flawed man who made terrible choices, who hurt people, who hurt us. But he's also your father. Someday you'll decide what kind of relationship you want with him. That's your choice, not mine. Your relationship with your father is yours to build or not build. I'll support whatever you decide. What I want you to know is this: I stayed too long. I saw the signs and I made excuses. I prioritized his comfort over my own worth. I shrunk myself to make room for his ego. Those were my mistakes, not yours, never yours. But when the time came, I fought. For you, for myself, for the truth. I didn't fight with hate. I fought with clarity, with evidence, with grace. I won not because I destroyed your father, but because I finally valued myself enough to demand better. You will meet people who lie, who manipulate, who take more than they give. The world is full of them. When you do, remember, their behavior is not your fault. Their choices are not your responsibility. Your only job is to protect yourself, to trust your instincts, to walk away when staying costs too much. You're named for two strong women, Grace for your grandmother, who survived the Holocaust with nothing but her courage and her jewelry. Charlotte for me, your mother, who survived your father with the same determination. You come from survivors, women who rebuilt their lives from ruins, who chose hope over bitterness, who fought not for revenge, but for peace. Be strong, be kind, be truthful, and never, ever make yourself smaller for someone else's comfort. I love you. I have loved you since the moment I knew you existed, and I will love you every day for the rest of my life. Welcome to the world, baby girl. We're going to be just fine. Charlie closed the journal, set it on the dresser beside the crib, beside the ultrasound photos, beside the tiny clothes and the stuffed animals, and all the other preparations she'd made for Grace's arrival. Outside, the sunset faded. Night fell. Stars appeared in the darkening sky. Charlie sat in the rocking chair, hand on her belly, Grace kicking strong and steady. Both of them ready. Both of them waiting. Both of them surviving. Her phone buzzed one more time. A text from Melissa. I saw the press conference. Thank you. For everything, Emma's going to grow up knowing there are women who fight, who protect, who refuse to let bad men win. Thank you for showing her that, showing all of us that. Charlie smiled, typed back. We're family now, all of us, you, me, Emma, Grace, all the women Derek hurt, all the children he abandoned. We're connected, and we're going to make sure our kids know they're loved, wanted, enough, even if their father never figured that out. Melissa's response came immediately. Sisters in survival. Yes, sisters in survival. Charlie set her phone down, closed her eyes, felt Grace settle, felt her own heartbeat slow, felt peace wash over her like a wave. She'd done it. She'd left. She'd fought. She'd won. Not perfectly, not without pain, not without cost, but she'd won. She'd protected Grace. She'd helped Melissa and Emma and the other women. She'd told the truth. She'd demanded accountability. She'd refused to shrink, to hide, to protect a man who didn't deserve protection. And now she was free. Finally, truly, completely free. Grace Charlotte Hayes would be born into freedom, into truth, into a life built on honesty instead of lies, into a family of survivors who'd teach her strength, courage, worth, into a future that was hers to build however she wanted. That was enough. More than enough. That was everything. Charlie opened her eyes, looked around the nursery, at the crib she'd built, the walls she'd painted, the life she'd created from the wreckage of her marriage. It wasn't perfect. Wasn't what she'd imagined 7 years ago when she'd married Derek. But it was real. It was honest. It was hers. And sometimes real was better than perfect. Sometimes truth was better than fantasy. Sometimes survival was better than settling. Charlie stood, walked to the window, looked out at the night sky and at the stars, at the future stretching ahead, unknown, uncertain. But hers and Grace's, to build, to shape, to fill with whatever they wanted. Tomorrow would come, with its challenges, its uncertainties, its fears and hopes and possibilities. But tonight, Charlie was just a woman in a nursery, preparing for her daughter, building a life, surviving. And survival, she'd learned, was its own kind of victory, the best kind, the only kind that mattered. Grace Charlotte Hayes was born 2 months after that press conference. 8 pounds, 3 ounces. Perfect. Strong. Loved. She's 3 now. And sometimes she asks about her daddy. I show her the journal. Tell her the truth. Age-appropriate truth, but truth, she deserves that. Derek pays his child support, shows up for supervised visits. He's been consistent for 3 years now. It's not love, it's obligation. But it's something. Melissa and I are friends. Emma and Grace are sisters. The other women Derek hurt? We're all connected now, supporting each other, protecting our kids, building lives he can't touch. If my story helped you, if it made you feel less alone, less crazy, less broken, please like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories about survival, strength, and starting over. Because we're all just trying to survive the unsurvivable, and we do it better together. Thank you for listening. Thank you for believing me. Thank you for being here. You're not alone. None of us are.